We can take this one stop to Queen's Spot. Yeah. Yeah, I just gave somebody good direction. That's always satisfying. That's what made me think I wanted to be a 311 operator. Like the satisfaction that comes from giving good advice, good directions. Anyway, I could have called 311, but the longest time off it was really loud, and to further make the poetry of the obnoxiousness singing is incredibly loud alarm blasting off. A giant rat came bounding at the building. It's not the biggest rat I've seen, but it was pretty damn fat. Well, it just means was it rude of that dude who interrupted my Payphone call and asked me directions? Who cares, right? So this is Lexington, near 58th Street. I'm getting ready to see a dentist and see if there's any problem with this random pangs of pain that I feel, or random shots of pain that occasionally hit my front tooth. I had caps, or a cap put on one of my front teeth a long time ago, and then I had it re-upped, whatever you call it, maybe 15 years later, and it's been probably 15 years since that happened, maybe even 20. At the dentist back then, except to expect it to last a long time, but not forever. I don't know if it's going to need to have to do that, but I was so unnerved by the dentist shakedown that I felt like I was subject to the last time I saw in November. But this guy, I don't know, sounds no nonsense. Sounds like he doesn't have a secretary or anybody but himself to answer the calls, and it sounds like he takes calls while he's seeing patients. I don't know. Nothing much can happen at this, because all he says he's going to do is take an X-ray. See if any next steps are in order. Yeah, I know. This is pretty damn boring. But welcome to my world.
The number you have reached has been disconnected or is no longer in service. If you feel you have reached this recording in error, please check the number and dial again.
This is starting to feel like a comedy. I'm at Grand Central, and there are only 4 payphones left, and there were 2 of them right next to each other, and I tried both of those, neither one of them worked, so I came over here to the station master's office, and somebody was actually using this phone. So between her and me, this phone made its dollar for the day to make it a sustainable business. That's always been the rule of thumb for payphones, is a buck a day. So I'm heading over to this place called the World Bar. I was looking around for something to do, something outside of my comfort zone, and I came up with a few things, but they were either already in progress or about to start happening within seconds. But I'll try again for that kind of thing tomorrow. But I'm going to what is described as a networking event, but I'm not under any illusions or delusions that it's anything transformative that is about to happen here. Basically, a dude owns a bar, and he invites the whole world to come by and bring your business cards, and lots of them, and who knows what will happen. And I'm okay with that, but truth be told, I've had a lot of trouble making friends through the friends that I do have. Either they don't like me or I don't like them, or people are just busy, you know. People don't have time for friends. I mean, we don't hang out, or I'm not meeting anybody these days with whom I would just meet up with and hang out. And I guess I could blame social media for that, but that would be too easy. I think the real not being a very interesting guy. Nevertheless, I'm going into this with a positive attitude, even if it's, and on account of that, I'm not feeling the anxiety that I usually would, because what have I got to lose? There's nobody there that I'm expecting. There's no in particular person I'm trying to impress. So I brought a stack of business cards that my ex-girlfriend designed, and I printed, and the design is interesting and good, but the printing that I did has a lot of streaks on it, but who cares, right? If somebody's going to judge me on the fact that I printed my business cards at home, well, I probably wouldn't want to do business with them anyway. So I'm here early, but I'm going to get some food and line my stomach with something so that it doesn't, so that these $10 beers don't go straight to my head. This is Grand Central the way it's supposed to be. There's just people everywhere. It's like an ant farm, but a very, very busy ant farm. I wonder who that woman was talking to. She looked a little distant. She looked a little, she was older. She's probably 60s. Well, as I started talking here, a mass of kids came in. They looked like high school age. I guess they were on a tour. I don't know why they came in here, because they were in here for about 15 seconds before the whole mob of them just turned back around and left. This event is in, the bar is in a Trump building, and I noticed that they don't advertise that fact in the announcement. But, so we'll see. There are supposed to be free hors d'oeuvres and that kind of shit. And I'm just doing this because I don't get out enough, and typically when I go to any kind of bar anymore, everybody just stares into their phone. And the bars I do know have gotten kind of cliquish, and the people I talk to have no memory of talking to me when I see them again a week later. I did meet an interesting dude the other night, though, and I think he at least remembers who I am. He didn't seem particularly interested in anything I had to say, but I think we at least seem to be on the same wavelength in some ways. So there's that, but I'll probably never see him again. It's a little after 7, and I got up when I wanted to. It's really getting noisy and crowded. It's a much smaller space than it made it sound like, but again, that surprised me. I had a good time. I feel somewhat energized, and nothing really surprises me. Everybody there had some agenda. I had mine, although my agenda was more nebulous than others. I was really just checking this thing out to see how it works. And it's, you just walk up to people and start talking, or at least you can try. The last woman I talked to seemed surprised as hell that I was just looking at laughing at her. And she said she just walked into this event. It's the first one of this sort of thing she's ever been to. And that's what a few other people said. I'll keep it in mind for next month. They have this every month. And the beer that I didn't think, I thought I was going to have to spend like $20, but I probably could have got away with not buying anything. And we never do a bunch of financial advisors. One guy actually seemed really genuine. I think he's talking about all the ideas that he chased after that failed, and how he settled into real estate investment and that kind of thing. And another guy makes custom suits. And I asked him if he was wearing one of his custom suits. He said, hell yeah. And this was the first person I talked to. Oh, there were two people who own a chain of bungee bowl restaurants. And they explained to me what that was, but they were there looking for franchisees, I think, or maybe even investors, I don't know. Most people seemed pretty cool. His whole name, Rosalind, kept imploring me to check out her company, and I think it was a I don't remember what the fuck she said. She didn't have any card on her, so I was going to think about it, but, well, she seemed, she seemed genuine. She wasn't like, everybody's there with their thing. Nothing wrong with that. I guess you could say I was there with mine, even if I'm not clear what it was. I told people I might be looking for collaborators or funding or whatever, but I just wanted to see what this was like. And I'm glad it's a, hey. So last night I did something kind of out of character for me. Or totally out of character, I guess. And that was the idea. I wanted to find something easy and cheap that's outside of my comfort zone. So I went to a networking event at this bar called One World on First Avenue by the United Nations. The bar is, just don't ever go there. There's no possible reason you would want to make that a destination, but, I mean, maybe the cocktails or something, but the place is uninteresting on almost every level. But I knew it was, I saw this for what it was. The dude owns the bar, and he just invites the whole world to come by under the guise of a networking event. It's cool. It totally works. I didn't talk to the organizer at all, but I met up with the first people I talked to on like a smoothie type chain of 3 restaurants now, and they're looking for franchisees, and I told them I don't want to do that, but it was cool. I mean, they're just shooting bullets wherever we could, right? But it was fun, and I totally see why people do these things, want to go to these things. I need a better business card because I'm handing out the cards my ex-girlfriend designed and that I printed, and the design is fine, but the printing job is pretty uneven. But I introduced myself as an artist to everybody, so maybe they'll take it at face value that I don't have a lot of money to spend on business cards. But then again, I probably shouldn't be using my ex-girlfriend's design anymore, not that it really matters. But so I'm going to go again next month to this one, and I'm going to other things like this just to see what's out there. If I had an agenda, it was that I'm an artist looking for funding or sponsorship or something like that, or just looking for whatever the hell's out there. I don't know what's next for me. And this, if anything, this night made that clear, or that it never has been. It's been what's next for me has been unclear for a long time. So today I've just been messing around with the phone stuff and have some interesting interactions with among people who don't know how they got connected. And as usual, I'm going to try to put those stupid machines into the equation by making people think that the calls are coming from those machines when I'm there overseeing it. I saw a headline, and I read a little bit about a story where back in she was at NYU, Lady Gaga, she would later become known, was hated by some of her fellow students. Hated enough that they formed a Facebook group called, they used her real name, which I don't remember, but this is so-and-so, you will never be famous. And of course, she's one of the most famous people in the world now. And say what you will about the pettiness of those 12 people. There were only 12 people in the Facebook group. And they were just complaining about how annoying she was and all this. But, I don't know, writing about that Facebook group and the way it's being written about comes with its own pettiness, I suppose. But at any rate, it reminded me that I was, fast forward a few. Well, my ex-girlfriend actually worked on that concert at Roseland. That Lady Gaga did. She was the final performer there. And I was reminded of that, how she was bragging about that job a little bit. I thought that was cute, but she was bragging about that. But fast forward a few years, and I'm watching a cocksucking video where this woman is just gorging on this dude's cock. And I recognized her face from this ended up being a longer version of a video that I had already seen and that I used on those stupid NYC machines. I played a lot of porn on that just because I could. And she was one of them. And in this video, the radio is playing Z100, I think was the station, and as she's sucking cock, somebody comes on the radio and says that announces the Lady Gaga concert coming up at Roseland, and she is the guy whose face you don't see. They both just laugh a little bit. She stops sucking cock long enough to say that she said she fails to recognize the significance of why this Lady Gaga concert is such a big deal. And I don't know if she had a thing for Lady Gaga. Maybe these two were among the 12 people that were in that Facebook group those years earlier. But whatever disdain or dismissiveness they might have had for it, sort of is belied by the fact that they took time out of a cocksucking to comment on it. This is 47th Street and 48th Avenue. New Calvary I can see off to my left, and to my right I can see what I think is the apartment complex where this woman I'm after lives. I'm not sure of that though, but I'm out here fantasizing about what it would be like for me to make myself cross paths with her somehow and make it seem like it happened innocently. It is innocent in the sense that I'm not some kind of weird perv staking a woman out for anything but the right reasons. I mean, no. Just imagining if this would be part of the documentary, although I'm starting to question if that's ever going to happen, but not that I had anything at stake in it. But I'm imagining the filmmaker following me around on this little quest. And at some point she might ask me, like, what is so special about this woman that you're taking all this time to arrange this sort of seemingly accidental crossing of paths? And I would say, honestly, what's so special about her? She drinks. And she's also pretty cute, but I gave up a long time ago or I gave in to the fact that I don't think I could be with a woman who doesn't drink. And I'm okay with that. When I was in college, my mother called to tell me that the house had been robbed. I don't remember everything that the thief got off with because we didn't have much to steal. But I think he got some piece of jewelry of hers. And some other junk. Like I said, we didn't have anything worth stealing except for one thing, and that was a bag of bicentennial quarters. Those are the quarters that were issued around the bicentennial in 1976, and my mother and I collected as many as we could with the expectation that these were collectibles and that they were one day going to be worth far more than 25 cents each. So we've been collecting them for I don't even know how many years. When they finally got stolen, and it was a bit of a relief because that bag of quarters that, well, let's just say each quarter was worth about 25 cents. And having that bag around was a bit of an albatross. It'd take about 30, 40 bucks worth of quarters. So she was detailing to me the details of what was missing, and the dude didn't mess up the place or anything like burglars sometimes do, for at least in movies, for no apparent reason. They just completely trash the place that they're robbing. And so that didn't happen, but she was steadfast that it was a guy. And as to the fact that he took a dump in the bathroom and left a monster log. And she said only a man could put out a turd that big. She didn't say those exact words, but that was her sentiment. So the conversation goes on and on. it's upsetting and everything, but it also just wasn't that big a deal. So the conversation drifts away, and I talk about something, and she talks about something, and she says, there's something that I've been meaning to ask you. I woke up from a dream with this word in my mind, and I have no idea what it means. And this happened to her a lot. Words would just appear in her mind, either in a dream or just out of nowhere. Fully formed words that were completely unknown to her. One of those words, and then they came to mean something in time, these words. One of those words was Volusia. She'd never heard the word. She doesn't know where she picked it up, but it first came into her mind just sometime in the 70s. And years later, when our father left us, he moved to Volusia County in Florida. And he never got over that strange coincidence, or the strangeness of it all. And another word that came to mind was the name, the full name, Palmer Stiles. And she waited a long time to learn that Palmer Stiles lived in Volusia County. He was a race car driver. But anyway, the word that she had in mind this time and that she said she'd been meaning to ask me about, she pronounced it fellatio. And I didn't recognize the word at first until she spelled it. And, well, naturally enough, I think I was a little awkward in formulating my response to tell my own mother what fellatio is. And she claimed to have never seen the word, never heard it. So how did it come into her mind? Well, or come into her mind? Listen to me. So I sort of found a way to define the word without calling it cocksucking. And she didn't express misgivings about the conversation, but I think she was just hiding the fact this was uncomfortable as hell. But I've thought about that ever since, this question, because we had dictionaries at home. We had at least two that I can remember, and probably a whole host of smaller ones. That word should have been in one of them. And this hunch was confirmed just a couple of years ago when I went to a thrift shop and found an old copy of that same one of the dictionaries that we had at home. I think it was in Oxford, a big one. And I looked up that word, and there it was. She knew how to spell it. She knew how to use a dictionary. When I was a kid, we used dictionaries all the time for word games and crossword puzzles and that kind of thing. So why did she ask me that? I don't know. I don't know. I used the name Palmer Stiles a lot during high school. He was a character in the short stories that I would write. That was me sort of deliberately trying to bring meaning to the name that had popped into her head. And at some point I did explain to her that Palmer Stiles was a race car driver that lived in Volusia County. And isn't that crazy? But she reached an age where she wasn't receptive to things like this anymore. It's hard to explain what I mean by that, but maybe I don't need to explain. I'm at Rockefeller Center, where there's nothing interesting in my mailbox except for a lipstick catalog that is addressed to my box, but under a woman's name. And not aware that that's ever happened here before, but it may well have happened and I forgot about it. But I've always thought of the conjoined nature of those boxes as a little weird. It's like nobody here knows each other, yet we all have the destination in common. Reminds me of an event I heard about in San Francisco where people who had bought spots at the community mausoleum had a meet and greet, so they got to know the people they were going to spend the rest of eternity with. I don't think I'd want to do that. But why did she ask me to define fellatio? It reminds me of a joke, or it's not really a joke, it's a story a friend of mine told me. She's probably about my age, probably not, probably a little bit, but she said she was in her early 20s when she went to a gathering with her mother of a bunch of other women that were her mother's age. It was like all the moms in town. She grew up in somewhere in Wisconsin. So all these moms were, talking and stuff, and one of them told a joke that included the term blowjob. And she tells the joke, everybody laughs, and then my friend's mother stops everybody. She's like, wait a minute, what does blowjob mean? And nobody could believe that she was asking this. And this was like a 50-something-year-old woman. And so when they were suitably convinced that she didn't know what the word meant, the person who told the joke defined it. And my friend's mother said, well, why would anybody want to do that? And I bet the whole room was thinking, boy, her husband, that poor guy. That's what my friend said she was thinking, my poor dad. Anyway, I was writing a story about cocksucking, or that included a reference to cocksucking, and I was going to send it to the website where they post short stories. And I'm not sure I want to use the term cocksucking, even though it's the only word I can think of for it. It makes sense in this particular video, at least. Like there was discussion, again, a long time ago, not that long ago, some NYU students posted or created a group that was called Lady Gaga. They used her real name. I don't remember what it is now, but it said, you will never be famous. And there were only 12 people in this group. And it's gone now, but it sounds like it used to have just a lot of stupid asshole comments that college kids make, And this story surfaces every once in a while. And it's usually framed as a, she showed them wrong or she proved them wrong type of thing. And the haters are not just hateful, but they're usually full of shit. But at the same time, the sort of sanctimony that some people heap on these 10 kids for just making a stupid college asshole mistake. I mean, you're supposed to make mistakes in college, right? That's how you learn. But anyway, that philosophy is maybe a little too lofty for this circumstance, but anyway. It reminded me that I was watching a cocksucking video, and this woman is really just gorging on the dude's cock. And they have the radio playing as they're doing this. It was Z100, if I remember right. And as they're doing their thing, the song ends and this voice cuts in on the radio announcing that Lady Gaga will be closing Roseland. She'll be doing the final concert at the Roseland Ballroom. And they stopped the cocksucking to sort of snort and chuckle. And she said something to the effect of, like, I just fail to see what the significance of this is. And he said something similar. It was the spirit of who cares. I mean, how apathy, they were trying to appear apathetic, but apathy doesn't work like that. If you're apathetic about something, you don't stop your cocksucking to comment on it. All right, I'm going to head back, but I'm going to let the phone hang for a bit. had ashes put on my forehead when I called I was testing some of the star shortcuts on that phone, and I could listen to the daily prayer, which was kind of lengthy actually, and it was about Ash Wednesday. And I came out of Grand Central. I was thinking of where I would go to get them, where the nearest church was, and I was going to go to St. Patrick's like I always do, as I have in the past. But then I saw a cluster of people with the plus signs on their forehead, and these ashes were particularly black, particularly dark, as I remember them from last year. And all these people were coming out of St. Agnes Church on 43rd Street, which is where I am now. So I went in there. I thought I'd go there because I've never been in that church. And I still haven't really been in that church because they did it all in the foyer of the area just inside the front door. So I still don't know what the inside of that church looks like. But it reminds me of how intimidating churches used to be to me. But I felt like I wasn't allowed in unless I was ready to let God take me in completely, swallow me whole, and vice versa, of course. But they don't ask questions at this church, not on Ash Wednesday at least. So now I walk around feeling like I've been branded with the threat that somebody's going to see me and flip out on me that I believe in the wrong God or followed the wrong gospel. Well, my little free ride is over. I found a unlimited use Metro card on the sidewalk, and on Tuesday, and it lasted all the way through Thursday before somebody canceled it. I thought they were going to cancel it like right away because it was one of those auto reload cards where you get billed at the end of the month or whatever. So I thought they'd be quicker to cancel that than any other type, but it was a pretty lousy time to have a free pass because the weather sucked. The trains around here really suck during the weekdays. But whatever. It led to an interesting discovery. I dialed star 81 on a payphone at Grand Central. It was connected to something called U-Law. And it was hard to tell what it was at first. And I thought I discovered something unique to payphones. But turns out U-Law is just a standard diagnostic tool that's used in all of telephony. Like when I first figured out what it was obviously just a whole suite of tests that you run on the phone to see whether if it has any connectivity problems or echo problems, that kind of thing. So it was fun because I went as far as bringing out my field recorder and the suction cup microphone pickup that you stick to a telephone handset to record calls. And it turns out I didn't need to do all that because it's the same. You can access the same service through any type of phone. So I called it Skype to confirm that. Anyway, I cleaned up the site home today and I'm going out for my afternoon constitutional. And and I got doomed to play on these stupid kiosks again. I still got game on this stupid thing. I don't understand why they let me get away with it.
The number 402-376-9904 has been disconnected. The number 402-376-9904 has been disconnected. No further information is available about this number.
The time change really annoyed me because I woke up and turned on my phone And the moment it turned on, it said it was 6:30. So I thought it was 6:30. But of course, the phone had been unable to make the adjustment while it was turned off. So it did that after I put it down, and I went back to sleep thinking it was 6:30. I didn't remember that the time change was coming. I missed the memo. I didn't hear anything about it. But so now I'm back on I have been happy with getting up earlier and earlier, but I sort of threw that off today. I just spent I don't know how many hours cleaning up my old blog, which has moved from place to place maybe 5 or 6 times over the years. And it's caused a lot of problems whenever I do an import and an export or whatever, either way. But the worst thing about it, I don't know how many hours I just spent fixing URLs and broken images and all this shit, but the worst part about this kind of work is that for all these hours I put in, nobody cares. Nobody's standing by to give me any credit for this or any respect or anything. I mean, that's the freelance life, I guess, although I have been asking myself, why am I even doing this? But because this site doesn't make any money at all. It never did. It never intended to. But I had a pretty bizarre screw up with the site. One of the databases, just for some reason, was decreasing in size by half a gigabyte every day, and it got to 2.5 gigabytes, and it filled up the disks and caused all kinds of stupid problems. And I'm thinking, I got to stop managing my own dedicated server, man. This is just getting to be boring and tedious, and I've been saying that for years, I guess. It's expensive, too, considering how little money I make now. Anyway, I watched Serpico last night, and I really wasn't crazy about it. I've seen parts of it before, but I watched the whole thing. I found the woman character to be really weak, and even
Please deposit 25 cents for the next 3 minutes.
Even kind of irritating. Anyway, but they did have a cool scene that I'd never seen before. They filmed it at the Astoria Boulevard, Ditmars Boulevard subway stop. Anyway, bye. I'm on Flushing Avenue, near Central Avenue, across the street from Coda, K-O-D-A, restaurant and bar in Bushwick. And I've been calling it a lot, too, with voicemail, like I did on Monday. Starting to worry that I'm giving myself too much raw material to sift through, and questioning how much of it is going to sound like anything to anybody. I made a shortcut to Bushwick today through a street off of, I walked through Calvary, and on a hunch, well, not a hunch, I looked at this up to make sure it was actually a street, but there's a turn off of, I think it's 56th Street, that you exit the cemetery on Laurel Hill Boulevard, and there's a stretch of road that takes you to Rust Street. I think it's 56th Street. And on that street, there's a turn, and it's always looked to me like a private business lot. And it turns out it's just a regular street, but it's very intimidating to somebody not on wheels to get in there. It's a very scary, busy intersection. And probably wouldn't be so scary on the weekend, but you also have to cross a railroad track. And all that, over the years, has conspired to make me think I wasn't allowed to go in there as a regular person. But I did, and it was pretty cool. I mean, the place is obviously not a secret. I was seeing delivery guys on their bikes going in there with the food deliveries. And no secret, but it felt like I had found something that had at least been a secret to me all these years. And it was a neat little area, and I'll probably traipse through there again sometime. I'm at 45th Street and 1st Avenue, across the street from the United Nations building. And this payphone has the work of Prey on it. She was everywhere. And it's amazing the consistency and it's almost like she had a stencil of some sort to do this with, but that's probably not possible. Go to church, read Bible. It's the saying that it's really a shame that they're throwing this shit into the landfill or wherever they're dumping these things. This belongs in a museum. I'm walking, and it's not, it's unexpected but not unintended that I'm going to head down to a hospital on 32nd Street and First Avenue. I made a note years ago that there might be a rotary dial payphone somewhere in the complex, but we'll see when I get there because I think I might have already explored this particular facility. Something pretty funny just happened. It's funny to me at least. I found a gift card on the street, and I came over to this payphone to see if there was any value left on it. There's a toll-free number on the back of the card that you call to check the balance. I came to the payphone because I was in the extremely unlikely event that the person who lost the card wanted to open an investigation into who spent the money. I mean, I'm imagining that there was a lot of money on the card, and if that was the case, maybe whoever lost it would be interested enough to do that. It's an extremely unlikely scenario, but you cannot, the reason I wanted to call from a payphone is you cannot hide your caller ID from a toll-free number. And I think a lot of people don't know that, and maybe they wouldn't care if they did know, but like I said, if there was any intrigue to be found in looking into who found the card and spent the money, I didn't want to leave any imprint. I didn't want to leave any evidence of my connection. So I called the number, and then you have to enter the 16-digit number, and then the expiry date, and the security code on the back. It's a very onerous process. We used to do this all the time with calling cards and credit card pay calls, but it's been a long time since I've done that. So at the end of this rather onerous process, this very chirpy voice comes on, and she says, "Your balance is 5 cents." She was so excited to tell me that I just found a nickel on the ground. But it reminded me of my mother, and I used to make fun of. She used to call into the voicemail systems I jacked into when I was in high school and college. And we used to make fun of the automated voice because she could sound so sad sometimes when you check to see if you have any messages. And she'd say, "You have no messages," and you hit the listen button anyway. And then she'd say, "But you have no messages to listen to." She didn't say but she said, "You have no messages to listen to." And she sounded sorry to be telling you that. Yeah, these are the things my mother and I talked about. I'm at 36th Street, and I guess this is 8th Avenue. Or is it 9th? I don't know. I just saw the Hudson Yards Mall, and it's a giant art piece up front. And I've got some reviews about it, and I guess I was prepared to be disgusted or disillusioned or, I don't know. But I'm just looking at it like, who cares? It's just a mall. That's all about the food. The artwork is kind of interesting, I guess, but it looks like a half-hour way to get on it. But it's just a mall. No Payphone. And no Spencer's Gifts either. Not a mall without Spencer's Gifts. Everything is very expensive, and the stuff that's been up for a very long time. People waiting to get at it. The grand opening was over the weekend, but I'm having trouble finding the energy to even comment on this place. It's just who cares? It's a mall.
I'm checking in from the Hotel Pennsylvania, from the row of 5 payphones, where there used to be 6, and where there's an old, really garish 1980s, maybe 1990s era fax machine, public fax that is. And I haven't been here in a while. Last time I was here happened to coincide with the hacker convention, whatever it's called. And I did come here knowing that that was happening, but knowing as well that I wasn't going to be attending. I've been asked at least twice to speak at that thing, and I just don't want to. The last time somebody asked, I made the mistake of saying I would think about it. In the past, I either just ignored it or said no. I think that a lot of people take a look at me, or they hear about me, and they assume I'm a freaker or a hacker or somebody from the cult of Dead Cow, those type of circles. But truth is, I got deep enough into the jungle a long time ago to know that I didn't want to be there. But I've kept that bit of a freak is me, and I could probably get into a lot of trouble if I followed through on more of my instincts. I'm just not. I wouldn't take any pride in doing destructive shit to other people's systems or to other people's lives. So maybe someday it'll be made clear that those folks who assume I'm in that world will understand why I'm not, and those who question why I'm not in the world will also understand why I'm not. So I got into a lot of trouble, and I've told this story a million times, but it involved Article 18, Section 2701 of the U.S. Code, where I made unlawful trespass into an electronic facility or something like that. I don't remember all the exact words. Crazy how I still remember the actual article, though. Article and section. The charges were slightly trumped up, and by the end of it, they understood that neither I nor my cohorts were doing the really bad stuff. We just happened to get tangled up in the brambles of the Legion of Doom and those types. And I don't know where they are now, but, well, what am I saying? I think I know exactly who some of those people were that got us into all that trouble. When I say I don't know where they are now, it's like I haven't looked them up or made any attempt to contact or reach out or anything, because I don't care. It's not like I'm harboring any resentment about the trouble that they got us into, because we were not supposed to be there ourselves. But if I had any desire to close the story with those folks, it would just simply be to let them know that this happened, and to simply let them know that there was some roadkill they left behind that they just didn't know about. So I'm riding my unlimited Metro card today and not really getting anything to show for it. I thought of zooming down to 77th Street in Brooklyn, where I'd heard there's a payphone in the subway. But I think instead I'm going to go home and write up or do something with all the stuff I got in Linden and Elizabeth yesterday. Not to mention some of the stuff I haven't even used from when I was in Corona. And I stood outside Johnny's bar for a few minutes and thought to myself, this doesn't look like my kind of bar. And there was supposed to be a payphone in there, but there were some people standing outside who sounded like they'd already been doing a lot of drinking. And nothing wrong with that, but I just felt that if I walked in on that, I'd be out of place. So I'm going to look up what I can about the bar to see when they open, and maybe just try to get there closer to opening. So I started reading a book that I got at the 181. It's called The History of Telecommunications. I think it's current up until, The Story of Telecommunications by George P. Oslin, Oslin. And it's current as of like 1993, I think. But I don't think I spent more than $8 or $9 for it. But I was thinking it would have more about the payphone than it does. But I guess I don't always have the most realistic expectations. I think I'll probably destroy it and scan it. By destroy, I mean like dismember the pages, not shred it. How would that work anyway? This is a pretty evocative location for these phones, you know? I could see a movie scene filmed here. Evidently, there were some movie scenes filmed at McManus, where I was a few days ago. So I went down to the World Trade Center thinking that Johnny's Bar was on Greenwich Street down there. It's actually on Greenwich Avenue at 12th Street up in the West Village. So I was in the wrong part of town. No big deal. Not having any travel-related anxiety today. Although I did start to feel some white earlier for no particular reason that I could think of. All right, I'm going to go. Actually, wait a minute. Something really weird happened. I went down to Hudson Yards to see the new mall. And all I can say is, whatever, it's a mall. Who cares? I mean, it has no soul, but the mall is a thing. It was never really known for having a soul to begin with. But it doesn't have a Spencer's Gifts. And a mall without a Spencer's Gifts is just not a mall. But the weird thing that happened was, as a joke, I was going to take a photo of, they have these information kiosks around the place where you can search for store names or whatever. And I typed in Payphone, knowing, of course, that there wasn't going to be any. And so I had that word up on the screen, and I was trying to take a picture of it, and it just wouldn't happen with my camera phone. And it made me think that, document scanners don't let you scan money. There's probably some workaround for it, but there's no easy way to scan money on a home scanner. And there's some other analogy I had in mind that I can't think of now, where you can't, certain objects are not allowed to be captured. So is it possible that this, I was going to say that they squelch cell phone calls in theaters sometimes. I don't know how widespread that is, but I've heard that some places experimented with it so that cell phones wouldn't ring during performances. But it had me asking if this kiosk, for some reason, sends out a signal, and that there's some standard protocol where the signal is received by a device such as mine, and it doesn't let you take a picture of this thing. And why would that be? So I was finally able to do it through some kind of, I don't know if it was brute force or if I'm really just imagining that I was not able to photograph this thing. So I have to look that up because it's very strange. It was very frustrating because I had to actually go back to Hudson Yards to get this picture because I just assumed I had gotten it. Yeah, frustrating and weird, but I did finally get a shot of it.
Fifth Avenue and 52nd Street in Brooklyn. And I guess I've never been on this stretch of road until now. It's pretty fun about every block on alternating sides of the street. I'm not going to worry about my eye problem. There's nothing I can do about it anyway, but after I took the drops, I started feeling a little bit of tension in the eye that I dropped them in. But it could just be that I'm being irritated by the floater itself. I wish there was a better term for it than floater, because it really just sounds like a turd to me. I mean, that's a slang term for a little piece of shit that didn't flush. And that's what it feels like I have floating in my eye. This stretch of Fifth Avenue sort of alternates between feeling unique and then feeling like Steinway Street. And that's not a comment, it's just it does seem to have its own character, which is something to appreciate. Not sure how much farther I'm going to walk, but I'm going to hop the train at some point. I'm going to just walk all the way back down to 36th Street and take the D back. The D is like a bullet from Rockefeller Center. I only discovered that recently. There's a dude sitting on the sidewalk behind me, playing music to the air. And he looked at me. That's his too. heard me ask, why the fuck are you using a payphone? Who uses payphones? So he probably thinks I'm poor. Maybe I am. I'm in East Houston and Suffolk Street, outside of a bar. I can't tell the name of it. Actually, it doesn't look like it's open anymore. And I'm looking down the street, there's a whole bunch of kids coming my way all of a sudden. They weren't there when I started the call. But those momentary moments of tension in my left eye seem to have stopped. And the floater is, well, as annoying as it ever was. But she's having a power conversation. She said, I'm in fucking hospital because I didn't catch what she said. It was the anger that got me. She really hates whoever she was talking to, so it's probably her husband, her boyfriend, or significant other, as they say. It's a little after 3, but the timepiece I just saw on the belly says 4. Confused me for a minute, because I want to get some coffee, but I don't want to get coffee too late in the day. So I'll probably go to Heaven's Hot Bagel, which is just down the street. The phone number printed on this phone is 435-336-9895. I'm going to take a picture of that and look when I get home to see where this was relocated from.
Your call cannot be completed as dialed. Please check the number and dial again. 048T.
Yeah, I was just at the Starbucks coffee shop in the Empire State Building. And I walked in and walked back out because I didn't want to stand in the long line. The place is always insanely busy. But I used to go there once or twice a week when I was seeing the therapist across the street. And there was some confusion at first about where her office was located. I thought she said Empire State Building, but I guess she said across the street from the Empire State Building. And I would have been impressed if she had an office in the Empire State Building. But I was at that place once downstairs, and this beautiful Asian woman was sitting next to me. And she asked me if I had 4 quarters for $1. And I kind of lit up. I was like, oh, you're talking to the quarter man. You're talking to the quartermeister. You asked the right guy. And I said, I use quarters to make payphone calls. And her face lit up. And at a glance, I would have thought she was like 25 years old. But when her face lit up, it was in this knowing way that suggested she was a lot older than she looked, and that she recognized the lunacy of anybody making payphone calls these days, or anybody carrying a bag of quarters around for that reason. And she kept peppering me with questions about the bus that she wanted to get. That's what she needed the change for, was to have exact change for the bus. And I just didn't really realize it, that she was hitting on me. And she was beautiful. So I rummaged through my bag to find what I thought was going to be a bag full of quarters. And what had happened was, a couple of days earlier, I had been invited to give a guided tour of payphones at the Union Square area, 14th Street. And when it started, the organizer of this, who invited me to do it, handed me a bag, a Ziploc bag full of what I thought were quarters. And I thought the gag was that I was going to use these quarters demonstrate how to make payphone calls or something like that. So I produced the bag at the start of the tour, and everybody got a laugh out of it. But I ended up using my own quarters for whatever demonstration purposes I had. So I put that bag of quarters in my messenger bag, and kind of forgot about it until this woman asked me if I had any quarters for $1. And so I found it, and I opened it, and I was chagrined to find that it wasn't quarters at all. It was actually dollar coins, and that the organizer of this had actually paid me $50 to do this guided tour. I wasn't expecting to get paid at all, and I can't say I didn't appreciate that he snuck in the payment without any discussion about it, but at the same time, I think, dude, I had this girl here asking me for quarters. I thought you gave me quarters. I mean, I made a joke out of it, of course, because what else can you do? So I tried to explain to her that I don't have any quarters after all. I'm really sorry. And I would have hung out longer, but I had my therapist appointment and I'm never late for anything. And it's really all in that last moment of saying that I had to go that I realized she was on to me. She was after me. And who knows what might have come of it. No point in lamenting missed opportunities, but she really was beautiful. So I'm at Penn Station. I just gravitate here for whatever reason, maybe because so many other people do. It is. I only learned this recently that this is the world's busiest transit hub. And I guess that makes sense. You've got the LIRR, NJ Transit, Amtrak, and the subways. I don't think any buses go out of here, or not many at least. I don't know. I could be wrong about that.
Passengers and their personal items may be cleaned or inspected. Use handrails on care. Be aware of moving vehicles and monitor your children closely. If you observe suspicious activity or unattended items, please notify a tax relief or Amtrak personnel or call 1-800-331-0008. If you see something, say something.
I don't know how much of that made it to this recording, but I just thought I'd let the robot voice announcement have its say, or have its place in this. I'm going to leave this phone here and see if this suspicious-looking derelict dude picks it up and says something. Hello?
I'm at Grand Central, and it's unusually busy down here today, unusually crowded, I guess on account of it's been raining all day. The rain is letting up. I didn't go out much of anywhere yesterday because it was raining all day. But I needed a day off from all my wandering the rails, and I'm going to go do a little more of that today. I'm not sure for how long. I just applied for a job at OkCupid, and it felt like turning over to the dark side in a way, because I've come to consider these type of sites to be an unconscionable waste of time, for me at least. But then I thought about it again, and this sort of thing is in my DNA, like setting up, I set up message boards I had those running for over 20 years, and I was able to bring people together just by creating the opportunity. And maybe this kind of job is right for me. I feel like I wrote a good cover letter, but they're probably just going to ignore me like everybody does, because the internet is a lot bigger than I am. And I wasn't going to say anything because she was standing right in front of me, but there's this lunatic-looking woman. She's walking away. She looked me right in the eye as I picked up this payphone to make this call. And now she's walking around just laughing hysterically at nothing. And then she stopped laughing, and now she's just walking around, not doing anything conspicuous. So this job would be a 3-month temp thing, which sounds good to me. And it would be moderator. It's sort of hard to say if it would be moderating people's dating profiles or the message boards or probably some combination of them all. But it's 40 hours a week. I'd work from home, and that would suit me perfectly. Or would it? Who the hell knows, right? I threw in the fact that I'm a trained classical pianist and that I know how to put in long hours, but I should have mentioned that I know how to put in long hours unsupervised. That's how I should have said it. And that lunatic woman is back. And she's just sort of patrolling this area as if she owns it. Maybe she does. Maybe I'm using her phone. I spent a good deal of time yesterday comparing a story and a tweet to Visible, this new kind of phone company. They put up an ad on a payphone saying that for $40 you can get 2 hours on this payphone. And then they say that for $40 you can get unlimited internet and everything from their cell phone network for that, whatever. But I called them out on it because their math is just wrong. For $40 you get 8 hours of call time on a payphone for a local call, and I forget how much long distance you'd get. I didn't actually add it up. It didn't matter. And I thought they'd get a laugh out of it because it's such an easy and good-natured thing to discuss. That they just didn't do they just don't know anything about payphones. And they could own up to that. They could admit that we don't use payphones anymore. But instead of taking an opportunity for a good bit of PR, they just ignored me, which is what the smart city does, which is what corporate does, which is what everybody does. I've said it before, as much as I aspire to be invisible, I don't like being ignored, especially when what I'm saying is legitimate. But I don't think I was a jerk about it. Maybe I didn't make enough effort to soften it by saying, with a smiley face or anything. So that was a waste of time, and I wrote a story that nobody read about that stupid Aunt Bertha app on the smart city machines, and what a waste it is in that interface. There's nothing wrong with Aunt Bertha, the app, or the website, but dumping it out there on these machines with the appearance of, hey, look, we just bridged the digital divide by making this resource available. It's a crock of shit. Okay, now the loony woman is walking with a crowd. She's like making herself fit in. And I actually think she might have been listening in on what I'm saying here. I'm sure she was greatly enriched for it. But it looks like she's going on to track 101. Good luck with that. But I'm thinking if she was still here, I was going to leave the phone hanging and see if she picked it up to say anything. I haven't checked in to see if, I tried that a couple of days ago. I haven't checked in yet to see if it worked. And wow, a whole bunch of tables just freed up. I should probably grab one. It is Sunday, probably about 12:30. And I think I'm going to stay a little closer to home today than I have the last week. My 7-day card expired. Honestly, it was kind of exhausting doing all that stuff. Getting from point A to point B. For some reason, there's a bunch of buses labeled a G train going to Queensbridge, which doesn't make any sense. There's no G train around here. The G train is at Court Square. Mad mysteries of the universe. I drank 4 high-octane beers last night, and I think that's why I overslept. Although I really have been exhausting myself with all this getting around. I got a pretty cool recording yesterday of a trumpet player at the Broadway Lafayette station. Sounded okay. Anytime I see that word Lafayette, I think of the scene from the musical Hair, where the woman appears, and she looks familiar. I think she went on to become well-known for other things. But she's sort of shaming this dude named Lafayette, and she keeps calling his name. And apparently he fathered her child, and he's not living up to his responsibilities for it. I think of that scene every single time I enter the Broadway Lafayette station, and the word Lafayette comes out. Lafayette, I'm talking to you. Kind of an uncomfortable scene from that movie. All right, then, this was important, wasn't it? I'm just wandering around Lower Manhattan today, wandering the subways primarily, but came up for air. I went ahead and bought another 7-day unlimited card. I was emboldened after finding those phone booths yesterday to come out and find more. But I'm wandering around looking at these old buildings and thinking how many of them probably have phone booths tucked away somewhere, either in the public space or not. I just don't have the personality type to walk in and ask. I tried to call from the payphone that was across the street from the Supreme Court building, 60 Center Street, fully square. But the thing just spit my quarterback out at me. So at least it was nice enough to do that. Been doing a survey and concluding that an overwhelming majority of the payphones in this town are 100% off the power grid, solar powered, and satellite phone or wireless. Every phone I tried, I call my own phone, and I have got this app that gives you details on the number, and presuming that the information to be accurate, every phone save for one has shown up as Verizon Wireless. And that's something I know a lot of people don't know about payphones. They don't like those stupid smart city kiosks, which are energy buttons that make a whole lot of noise that you don't really hear because of different street sounds. These do not touch the power grid. That begs the question. Would these things work? And for how long? In a blackout? And I suppose they would if they're 100% solar powered. So, I don't know. Interesting to know, though. So I'm just going to keep walking. I'm at Grand Street and Center Street, and a funny thing just happened. There was a dude walking along with a microphone and a loudspeaker, and it wasn't extraordinarily loud, but it was loud enough. And I was holding my Starbucks card in my hand when I hear this guy say, "Can I borrow your Starbucks card, please?" And I wasn't sure I just heard that, and then he said it again, and he wasn't talking to me directly. He was just broadcasting to anybody and everybody. And he said, I just love Starbucks coffee. I love Starbucks coffee. If anybody can let me use their Starbucks card. Wonder how much success he has with this little trick. I've actually sort of lost any love for Starbucks, but I have some money left on my card. That's why I was holding it in my hand to remind me that I should be keeping my eyes open for Starbucks. I don't know if it's the most oddball coincidence you'll ever encounter, but considering how many people probably have Starbucks cards, but still, I chuckled with that. This is 8th Avenue and 42nd Street. They took out the 3 payphones that were at the heart of Times Square between 8th Avenue and Broadway on 42nd Street. And I'm sorry to see that, but not surprised either. I guess this had to happen eventually. I was in the park, and somebody saw me saw me approaching the payphone, and I wasn't actually going to make a real call, but that doesn't matter. She saw me getting ready to dial a number, and she offered me the use of her cell phone. She's like, "Here, do you want to make a call?" And I said, "Don't worry about it." I had an impulse to explain that I have a cell phone. I'm not poor. This isn't what you think. But I just let it go unanswered, whatever questions she might have had about why anybody would use a payphone anymore. But pity the poor, right? Also, I noticed that this new phone company called Visible, I pinged them on their Twitter page or their Twitter feed to call them out on their faulty math, stating that $40 will get you 2 hours on a payphone and really gets you 8, but maybe I didn't make enough of a joke out of it because they probably just think I'm an asshole. But now I found this other sign, another ad of theirs that said, "Remember payphones?" And then it says, "Technically they still exist." How can you say technically they still exist? That's like saying, you see that tree over there? Technically it still exists. There's something, it's not really there. Or it's only there on a technicality, that tree. What the fuck are you talking about? Anyway, I was actually considering switching to them because it's so much cheaper, but the reviews are not in yet. At least not that I could find them. And I wouldn't base the decision to switch over them on their stupid ad campaign, but still, it's kind of funny. This is a very busy quagmire of humanity, this intersection, but it's not so bad today. It usually is. Usually I have to like huddle into the phone booth enclosure to avoid getting stepped on. I was going to go see a movie on my movie pass, but all these movies look like crap. Every last one of them. This is the payphone closest to the Park Lincoln. They renamed it to Amsterdam, Amsterdam, but to me it's always going to be the Park Lincoln. A few years ago, when they changed the name, they were trying to improve the place and kick out all the long-time residents, and they renovated a few apartments maybe, or maybe a few floors. And I saw some reviews from people who live there and said, you can't put lipstick on this kind of thing. The place is just a fucking dump. And I believe it. I lived here for about a year, maybe 9 or 10 months. I don't remember now. First I was in room 1422, and then they downgraded to room 317. And I was there long enough that I got a refund on the tax that I'd been paying, the tourist tax. So when I got that refund, I got to pay no rent for, might have been a month, 3 or 4 weeks. Like anything, everything around here looks the same, but it looks different too. The Beacon Theater is still across the street. Freddie and Pepper's Pizza is still over there around the corner. Cheska is the restaurant that overtook the lobby space of the Park Lincoln Hotel. And I ate dinner there once, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And all I could think while I was in there was, here I am in this fancy posh place on the wealthy, maybe 10, 15 feet above my head. People could be living in the same squalor I lived in when I was here all those years back. This is such a thin line between wealth and poverty. I also heard that Yoko Ono chose Cheska as her favorite place. That would have loved to cross paths with her. Don't think it's going to happen now.
I just took a couple of panic pills. I was on Madison Avenue, I think. And I hadn't quite reached full white, but it was getting there. And I'm still shaking a little. And I guess I felt this coming on for a few days now. I don't know. Try not to think about it. I took 2 pills that I used to not take more than a half a pill, but that's when I was worried about my supply. I don't like being like this. I really don't like being like this. I don't like when my head fills up with whiteness. It's not good. It's not a good life. This is the Rockefeller Center phone. Last one. Last working one in the center, except for the one on the subway. And I take 2 pills because it works faster, but also I was thinking I should take another one because a third one even, because I've had these pills long enough that their potency might not be what it used to be. And I've been keeping the pills by the shower in case I freak out in there and have trouble getting up and out. Anyway, at least there's meds for it, right? And if I have any concern about that, it's that they're not going to work or I'll get immune to them, but I don't take them that much that would happen. happened at the park, Central Park. I went out there to see if I wanted to see if that phone was a satellite phone or a wireless phone, because the connection sounds so strange to me, and maybe it is, maybe it isn't, I don't know, but the Truecaller app suggested it's a landline. But what happened was, as I approached the phone, this woman saw me, and she offered me use of her cell phone, and she says, "Do you want to make a call?" And it wasn't offended, it was just sort of amusing to me, but because if she thought I was poor, I mean, I don't care. Who cares if you're poor? You know, some people are uncomfortable around the poor, or they don't want them to exist, and the homeless is like, I don't like to use this term, but I think it's true that the homeless are the new nigger, or maybe not so new, I don't know, but you can say anything you want about the homeless without any fear of censure or consequence. But how could that situation yesterday have evolved? Maybe instead of her handing me her $1,000 iPhone, maybe I could have just suggested she give me 50 cents. Wow, I really don't feel good. I feel better than I did 15 minutes ago, but it takes time. I can feel the tension in my chest is easing. So I still have my 7-day Metro card, but I walked here over the bridge and through the woods. And I want to make it up to Pelham Bay Park. Maybe today's a day to do that. Because knowing me, going up into unfamiliar territory would cause anxiety on top of what I was already feeling. So with these pills in me, maybe that would offset double dose of anxiety or lessen it. I was feeling a lot of white when I was making my tour of the L train last week. I just went into the Starbucks and got a cup of coffee before making this call, and there's an entrance there's two entrances to the place. This is the one, well, it's the one closest to the Payphone. How's that for location? There's two of them, and two Starbucks in here. And there's a door on the side that says "Watch your step," and I've nearly tripped over it a few times. They really need to fix it, I think. But I came in and let the door close behind me, and then this dude came in after me, and he tripped over the entrance, and for a moment I thought I had done something wrong by not leaving the door open for him, but I didn't sense that anybody was right behind me. Anyway, it seemed like he roughed up his shoulder or something, but he said it was fine. But he almost fell face forward and would have landed on my back, or landed on me, which reminds me of the time I was at Yankee Stadium, and this dude in front of us was just as drunk as you could get, it seemed. And big guy, probably weighed 250 pounds. And he's standing up, and he stands up on top of the seat, and he falls flat on his fucking back. And if he had been one seat over, he would have paralyzed me. He would have landed right on my face, right on me. And he hit that ground with such force, it was something to think about, but no point dwelling on what didn't happen, but seriously, stuff can happen anytime, anywhere, any place. But that's no reason to be afraid of everything. We live in a world full of lies. Lies are at the fabric of our civilization. I've been reading How to Think Like a Freak. That's weird. I just heard a moment of silence on the phone. I've been reading How to Think Like a Freak, and a lot of it is kind of monotonous for me because I pretty clearly already think like a freak. as they define it. But the examples that they come up with to illustrate their point are more interesting to me. The first guy that they talked about was the Japanese kid who came to the Coney Island hot dog eating contest. And I think on his first try, he basically doubled the record of, I don't know if it was 25 hot dogs was the record. He hit 50. And everybody thought he had cheated or done something to change his anatomy. But it doesn't look like he did. And he was willing to share his techniques for not so much how many hot dogs can I eat, but how can I eat more hot dogs? And so he separated the hot dogs from the bun. And they went down pretty easily that way. Most people just ate both at once, the hot dog with the bun. But he separated the two, and further to that, because the bun causes you to not choke, but causes you to get stuffs your mouth. He dipped it in water. You were allowed to drink water while you were doing this. So he would dip the buns in water. And I started reading this, and I'm like, why am I reading the techniques of a hot dog consumer? But it became more and more interesting that these techniques can be applied to other things. And I've always considered myself someone who has a knack for finding efficiencies in all things. So I can appreciate whatever the problem at hand is, the kind of dissecting the process to make it more efficient. And then later, in the next example, they were talking about how outrageous ideas tend to get shoved under the table when there's a lot of money at stake. And he was talking about ulcers and and I remember this growing up, the conventional wisdom was that they were caused by spicy food and stress. So you should just relax and not eat any chimichangas. But that's been basically disproven by the discovery of some particular bacteria, and I've lost on all the specific lingo, but basically the dude found that people with ulcers had a certain type of bacteria, and then if that bacteria could be flushed out with the good gut bacteria, then maybe that's the solution. And what he arrived at the eureka moment was when he decided he was going to perform a fecal transplant. He was going to take the feces from a healthy person and shove it up the ass of the person with the ulcer, and that would flush out the bad bacteria. And you can't help laugh at the idea, but the book was the writer of this book was clever with the way he introduced it. He said, if you're reading this many years after this was written, you might think that this approach to solving or to curing ulcers is barbaric and grotesque, and maybe you'd be right. But then again, many years from now, maybe people will accept the fact that this works, whatever you may think about it. And this wasn't mentioned in the book, so I looked it up that you can actually get paid to be a shit donor. And to think that I could be making money doing something I love, right? That's my tagline for this, but they really need to think of a better name than fecal transplant, but I think that the last line was that he wanted to call it a transfusion. That's funny. But nevertheless, since that book was written, I don't know how long it's been, but what I read about it said that it works every single time, the fecal transplant. And I was on board with being a donor until I read that you have to put your shit in a blender and mix it with some saline solution. I would have thought the dudes at the lab might take care of that for me, but I knew a friend from high school who helped pay his way through college by donating blood and donating semen, and he would have donated snot if there was a way to make a couple of bucks off of it. But I don't think they were paying anybody to take a dump back then. I think that's a new business, and evidently it's pretty competitive to get in it. You have to have the perfect type of innards to qualify as a donor. All right then. Feeling better. The heart is slowing down, the heart rate. And I'm still shaking a little, but that's how it goes. I know I could have worse problems. Worse reasons to be crying on a fucking payphone, but I could stand to lay off the booze for a while anyway. That's the real upshot of taking these pills, is I can't drink for a while, for at least a day after I take them, but I'm going to see if I can last a little longer than that. There was nothing, no, there was just a Carnegie Hall flyer in my 181 today. But on the counter, I found somebody had left their catalog that they got at one of the P.O. boxes adjacent to mine. And I've picked up things like this before. It's like someday I'm going to put together a dossier on whose post office boxes are next to mine, and what difference does it make. All right, I'm going to get out of here. It's getting crowded all of a sudden.
We are sorry, you have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service. Please check the number and try again.
What's been so scary about this attack, and that is what it feels like, it really felt like something was coming to get me. And more than other times, it felt like more certain than ever that someday it will come to get me. I won't be able to stop it. I also had trouble swallowing the second one, which is weird because they're very small pills. And I think my throat tightened up a little too when all this stuff conspires. But, I think this is 50th Street and 6th Avenue. I'm looking to the west where Times Square is. One vital question that I've had was what were they going to rename the Timeline building? Since trying to make a move out of it a long time ago. That's a discovery I made entirely by chance when I was down by the twin top of the World Trade Center. I was surprised to see a tiny logo in front of the building. That's where they moved. But I didn't know they had moved. I just not let my keep trying to. So they're not going to rename the building anything. Now it's just known as 1271 Avenue of the Americas. And I had fond memories of working there, but I wouldn't want to do it again or go back to that kind of thing. I think I got lucky. I failed up. And those who fail up often do. I failed out. And I remember being kind of surprised when the call came, as the call was being delivered, well, an hour for phone. I just thought, who cares? I don't need the job. I don't want it. I hung on to it as long as I did. Pay off my student loans and the credit cards and all my debt. I didn't need to be making 6 figures like I was. And I didn't want to be making 6 figures or 7 figures. It's with more wealth comes more responsibility. weird when artificial. And I've had artificial feeling passes. I feel like a human being again, but it's the kind of thing where sometimes I feel perfect serenity in my body and I take a huge dump, and that's what this feels like. And that's what it's getting to. The problem is if I need to talk to anybody, I sound like I'm falling asleep. I'm afraid that's what I'm going to sound like. Though I don't think I do, or I don't think I would if I actually engage in conversation. I can see that the Go to Church Read Bible is on this Payphone, which caller ID shows 718-520-9559. But she's everywhere. She appears everywhere. Her message is still being received. I'm at crossing Chorus Lane and Metropolitan Avenue, 90-30. And there's a mall right behind me with this Payphone outside of it. There's Bob's Furniture and Dick's Sporting Goods and Staples. But I'm probably just going to head in to find a bathroom. But this mall doesn't seem to have a name, suggesting that maybe it's just more like a corporate park. Like a corporate park where everybody has their separate spaces but in a shared facility. I don't know. It's a great mystery, isn't it? It's still raining a little bit, and I'm just walking up thinking how much I miss being in this mental state. So many things I pass by that could have a story behind them or should interest me, but I'm not even looking at them. On the other hand, this is a pretty, it's got character and such, this stretch of Metropolitan Avenue, but it's a gloomy day and there's not a lot of people out. And I'm reaching a point in my travels where I'm just going to start talking to strangers, making conversation like I'm the friendliest guy in the world, because I'm ready to start taking chances like that. I'm at 72nd Avenue and Metropolitan Avenue. It's a very low-key, low-rise stretch of road. And I'm feeling like I'm just going to wander into something new, something I'm not considered. Caller ID is 718-520-9884. That's the number shown on the phone. I'm just recording that because I'm curious how many numbers don't show the proper caller ID. I was thinking about these statistics that Citigroup is releasing. I think there's a bunch of users who have downloaded 80-something terabytes of data. And all I think is just, who cares? It's just meaningless statistics. Nobody's making money from this. And the 6 million thing doesn't really stand up to scrutiny because 6 million people are not using it all at once. If they were, it would bust the system. And by the time, to continue this logic, it's going to come a point where there are billions of users downloading petabytes of data. And it's bringing that up, but the analogy was to the Barry Bonds thing when he was finding all these home runs out of the park, and everybody knew he was juiced. But you'd hear announcers say that, look, I know this is fake, but this is exciting. And I'm sorry, but somebody that's cheating like that is not exciting to watch. I've admit it is pretty cool to watch baseball go farther than everything possible. But truth be told, it doesn't go that much farther than before. And that's where the claim comes that the guy guaranteed steroids, he would have had like 1,100 home runs. Because the balls that the juiced hitters were hitting weren't going that much farther. They were going just far enough to get over the fence. But it's that fun sense of excitement that came from some announcers who were trying to make people watch Barry Bonds without skepticism or without question. And these numbers that they're throwing out, they're just so big that nobody's going to argue with them. Nobody's going to bother trying to break them down because It sounds too much like good news, and naysayers aren't welcome. It does something that would seem to be a triumph of the Smart City Brigade. You know, I forgot what I called to say. I tried to make a call from another phone. I'm in the Garment District. 37th Street, 7th Avenue. And I have something prescient and penetrating to say, but I can't think of what it was. It was in Lower Manhattan, all the way over by the river, and there's all this stuff there. There's Hudson River Park, and just a whole string of places and things, and I felt like nothing was there. I felt like the place was vacated. There's all these old, interesting-looking buildings at first until I look at them and I think, is it really even there? Reminds me of all the ideas I had that never even existed. Not ideas for things that never existed, but ideas themselves that never existed. There's so many. I'm also doing something today I don't ever really do, which is listen to music on headphones while walking around busy city streets. When I walked into Penn Station earlier, it's just a strange feeling for me to be moving and hearing music or listening to a podcast or whatever while I'm out around people. I've never fully warmed up to it, but I do find that when I do it, it keeps me alert. I pay more attention to my surroundings when I can't hear them. And I'm reminded again that if I had the choice, I would go blind over deaf in a second. I mean, without hesitation. Of course, when am I going to be confronted with that choice? Probably never. I think I staved off the white earlier when I was on the train. I was starting to have some trouble breathing. I overheard two unrelated conversations about grammar. One was these two black women were talking about somebody on TV who, for whatever reason, spelled the word bitch. But she spelled it B-I-C-T-H. And these two women couldn't stop laughing about it. And they're like, bitch. You bitch. It's just an ugly bitch. I haven't called in for a few days. I haven't posted any new tracks for the Payphone radio. And it's just as well because the whole thing crapped out on me last night. And I have no idea why. I sent something to the tech support guy. He didn't have any idea why either. That just seems to be the nature of these things, Shoutcast and their overlay management applications. So I just did what the guy said and provisioned a new station and deleted the old one. Away we go. I see that I have over 12 hours of programming on this radio. And that's just for this year. Well, that's been about a year since I started with, or no, it's been longer than a year. Maybe it's been 2 years. I have to go look that up, but either way, I mean, that's only the stuff that I used. I threw out a lot of stuff. But as I started playing back, I hadn't listened to this radio in a while. And as I played it back, I reminded myself that there's a lot of it I should trim. But for as much as I've left out already, I could probably cut the 12 and a half hours down to maybe even half that. I don't know. Or maybe we could break it up in several distinct track lists. I don't know. Whatever the case, it's interesting. All this accumulation. I drown in it, man. Sometimes I look for a picture and I think, okay, I'll post a story about this, but then I get distracted by some other story I started writing. And half the shit I start never gets off the ground, forget about being finished. I walked past the stripper's place today. I was thinking of her because she posted something to Facebook and she almost never does that. Yeah, I didn't respond directly to her, but she doesn't have that many Facebook friends. But after she posted her thing, about an hour later, I posted something not at all related to her. There's no way she could have interpreted it as reading a message to her.
Deposit 25 cents.
Except that perfectly suits her sense of drama. So I know that she saw that posting from me and thought it was targeted at her in some way. And maybe it was. Because I never really had a problem with her, but she just thinks I'm a creep in a pig. My ex-girlfriend is in town, and I only know this because I reactivated Instagram and saw a picture of her with her husband in Central Park. And as much as I want to reach out to her, I mean, I did reach out to her in December. We had a perfectly lovely conversation, but there's no more impulse to reach out to her because she's in town, and I certainly don't want to butt in on the affairs of a married woman with 2 kids. When we had quite a torrid past ourselves. It's not, someday I'll get up to there to just ask her. Maybe it's ahead of something. I'll do it, but I want to ask her if I still matter to her. I want to know if she's really happy with this guy. So when you say you're happy on Instagram, I tend to think you're not. I tend to think you're lying. Or just filling the vessel of social media expectations. I remember when she told me that she was getting married, and I said, well, I hope he's at least better looking than me. And she said, it's interesting looking. And I'm no judge of what makes a good looking dude, but I don't know. She could have done better on that basis, but what I want to know, too, is if she met this guy through the Arab dating site that she was looking at when we were in San Francisco. And I never told her that she was doing that because, well, I just didn't. But I found out totally by accident. I wasn't spying on her or anything. So it just seems like she became everything she said she didn't want to be. And I don't know, maybe I've done that myself. So there's a lesson to be learned there. I'm up on Ditmars. I'm going over to the library to pick up a book, and I've been lost on me all these years. The Steinway branch of the library, Prince Public Library, is not on Steinway Street. It's on 31st. Anyway, adios.
We're sorry. You have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service. If you feel you have reached this recording in error, please check the number or try your call again. The following tones are for the hard of hearing.
I'm up by the Triborough Bridge, across, right outside of Sanders' old place. But I wasn't thinking about her. Just the big ex-girlfriend leaks into my mind every now and again. I guess that's inevitable. It makes me mad. If the same could be said for her, if she thinks of me and what she thinks. I've been remembering these conversations we had about, like she was practically asking me if I even liked her. Forget about the rest. But I've also come away from the relationship asking the same question for her. Like, you couldn't stand me. My little idiosyncrasies were irritating as hell to you. And you just didn't like me for what I was. And after it ended, I remember hearing that you were talking about how you wanted to save me, change me, make me different. You just didn't like me, did you? But the truth is, I did like her. She was cool. She always made me laugh, and not a lot of people do that. But at the same time, she was painfully insecure. And that's how the anger manifested the insecurity, or the anger was a manifestation of that. I do sometimes wonder if she really would have ever hit me. That just seems like taking it too far for her. It seems like that's what ended it, was she pushed me to the ground and lined up her fist to punch me in the back of the head or punch me in the head. And that's when I said, I can't let this escalate. Because that's what characterized the anger was. It was every episode was an effort to outdo the previous one. Or it seemed that way. I don't know that that was conscious, but I'm heading up to an interesting little thing. The library up on 31st Street at like Ditmars is closed, but they have mobile service. A van or a truck or something comes, and I accidentally requested a book and had it delivered to this branch. It's my mistake, but I didn't even realize it was being renovated. But I'll get to see the bus. That'll leave the mobile library. That'll be fun. I called from this phone a couple days ago, on 23rd Avenue at 31st Street. I didn't realize it, but this is probably a landline phone. And I think it shows the out of the city area code. It has no solar panels, and with both of the app panels on the sides empty, you don't see the solar power supply that should be there. Also, I'm going to be interested to play this back to see if my voice was as clear as I think it would be as the train roared by overhead. So I picked up my book at the mobile library. The mobile library was pretty funny. I mean, it was cute, I guess. Everything you need, just the essentials. I didn't look around too much, but the pickup that I mistakenly had sent there was worth the experience. And I got a book called Mean Streets, and it's photos of New York City from, I think, the 70s and 80s. I forgot exactly why I ordered this, except, I think there is only one particular type of photo in there that I'm interested in. And it's an out-of-print collectible. I think it was going for like $80 on Amazon, so I just said the hell with that. I don't really want more picture books anyway, but I think I might intend to scan this one. Alright, so I'm up here on 23rd Ave, but I'm contemplating walking all the way down to 23rd Street in Manhattan, which is where this meeting is, but I've got about 3 hours to do it if I want to. So it'll be just about enough time. I embarked on a pretty strange trip last night and today. I was trying to verify a timeline for when I started dating the Muslim woman that I was with for a few years. And I stumbled across some of our correspondence. And I can't help but reread it again and just remember how real that was. How my enthusiasm was. I didn't show it, but I remember how I felt about her. Because she was beautiful and knew my stuff and had followed my web stuff since she was a little kid. And just a cool person. I mean, I remember now what a badass she is. So, I'm not getting nostalgic for it or anything, but sometimes I wonder if she's really happy with what she has. When somebody brags about how happy they are on Instagram, I tend to roll my eyes. Maybe just internally I do that. So, it's cool, but it's also kind of sad, but I guess that's what you get for reading your old love letters. It's interesting, though. I haven't gotten to this. I scrolled through it. It's really lengthy correspondence, but here and there I saw talk about the sex that we had. And it's going to be interesting to read through it and see how that evolves. As we chatted up online for a few months before we met, and I still was never sure what her relationship situation was, but it seems like, because she was explaining it in a way that just didn't make cultural sense to me, that I'm not familiar with arranged marriages. But she had been with a dude for 5 years, and she said the sex was just horrible, but she did it anyway, perfunctorily. This turns out to be one of those days where it takes me about half a day to realize how fucked up I am from the night before. I don't remember exactly what happened last night, but I ended up eating only after drinking a lot, and you can't really chase alcohol absorption. So I don't have a headache or anything. I'm just in a bit of a daze. I sent off a story to this random website where they have a photo prompt. There was a picture of a woman, and maybe a girl dressed up in a clown type of outfit. But I recycled I didn't recycle it, but I drew from a poem I wrote a while ago about a woman who lived inside a freezer. So instead of making her a clown, I made this one like a goddess that people came to adore. And I think it was okay until the last sentence. I think I could have sealed the deal a little more effectively. Anyway, it's windy as hell out, but I'm going to do some walking anyway. And I made a recording of myself sleeping last night, but it didn't look very inspiring, so I just deleted it. I wanted to use this other payphone I used on 21st Street. I had recently come back to my service. It was out of order for a long time. This dude was using it, and he was really, earnest. Whoever he was contacting. I've been thinking about my ex again, and I wasn't intending to spend time with this, but I reread our correspondence from 2008, 2009 through, I don't know, this is all the Facebook correspondence. It's interesting because it stopped altogether at some point when, that's not to say we stopped talking, we just choose Facebook as our primary source for that. And I don't remember now if she quit Facebook or I don't know, but it was interesting to read that stuff again now. Because I remember so much of it. There was a few things I didn't remember, but I'd say I remember probably 80% of everything that we talked about in those chats. And it was beautiful, you know. I was really on my game. I really wanted her. Well, the sun is shining brightly on this payphone. Maybe that's a signal that the sun is shining more brightly on my immediate future. This could still fall through if it has to go through any chain of command, but I might be doing part-time work as a researcher and fact checker and gatherer and that kind of shit for the New York Times. And this came about after I contacted my buddy there. I said, look, I need a job. And he said that the Times is actually laying off its researchers who, most of them have like private investigator degrees and that kind of shit. I didn't even know that. So I may be getting into more than I bargained for or something I don't really understand. But hey, that's how you get into things, right? Just take an opportunity, whether you qualify or not. And that's how most people get their jobs, just by luck. It's not because anybody's necessarily the greatest in the world. They do. It's just people just have the room to take a chance. And if they're, you know what, I didn't say this, but if they're laying off their research department people, all I can say is that it shows some of the reporting I've been reading lately. They did this piece today about, what they posted it yesterday, I think, about the future of artificial intelligence gathering and identity and face recognition and all that stuff. I'm like, just shaking my head. It sounded so naive. Anyway. Yep. Talk to you later. I just wanted to explain the sound or nature of my delivery for the last call that I just made about 10 or 15 like he had nothing else to do. He was standing inches away from me, and he was facing the other direction, but as he was facing the other direction, he kept moving a little bit closer and a little bit closer. And he was listening to my phone call, or appeared to be. I don't know why else he wanted to stand so close to me. He didn't get too close, but it was close enough that I could tell he was just wanted to hear what I was talking about. And I'm thinking maybe he uses payphones himself, and he saw a kindred spirit here, or he wanted to connect or wanted to talk, but he also looked a little itchy. He looked like he didn't have anything to do. Like I wanted to talk. Anyway, just wanted to continue what I was saying about the potential gig at the Times. It's not exactly, I say I don't know what I'm getting into, but it's not like I've never worked in this business before. I worked in a newsroom for 7 years, and this is kind of going way back, but I was editor-in-chief of my high school paper, and we did win the big Times State Award, and I considered myself a pretty good editor back then. And that's the kind of thing that this is essentially an entry-level job, and that's that background that I have kind of suits it. So in those days, the paper that never really leaves you, and the newsroom, of course, is the newsroom. So it's not like I'm diving into some completely unknown territory. And I would never say this, of course, but the dude kind of owes me. I practically wrote his first book for him, and I ghost wrote big chunks of major story he did for Times Magazine, and I've given him more ideas than I should be giving away for free. So I see if it works out, if it continues to work out, and he's being really cool, he's offering me more than what he pays everybody else. I didn't ask anything about those other people. I'm assuming they were probably young in college. Not sure just that. And that's how I'm trying to make myself feel. Just out of college again. We're just starting over. I had this tune going through my head all day. And a lot of folks don't know this or get surprised when I tell them that the alphabet jingle, the alphabet melody is the same melody used for Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. So you got A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, P. And then you got Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. How I wonder what you are. There's a little bit of a flourish on the alphabet version where they go L and P, but it's the same. It's the same notes. It's funny how they squeeze in those letters. That was one of my favorite parts of the melody. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. How you know your ABCs. Next time won't you sing with me? I'm getting off pitch. I haven't done much singing lately. But, twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above the world so high, like a something in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. And maybe if by singing this now, I will get it out of my head. I knew a teacher at high school who said the perfect melody was Happy Birthday. And he would deliver seminars on this tune. And now you got to ask if they shouldn't have been paying royalties on it, because during those days the song was still under copyright. But almost nobody actually paid to use it, except in movies. Like if they got caught using it in a movie, they had to pay the royalty. And a lot of filmmakers, especially the song ones, didn't know it was under copyright. And it finally did come out of copyright for some reason. I don't know what the perfect tune is. Every once in a while, I binge on this one dating website that has been around a long time. Not that that gives it any credibility, but I'll hit it multiple times a day for a few weeks, and then I'll ignore it for 6 months. But I mean, I'd never get anywhere with these things because, and I don't really expect to. I don't represent absolute perfection, and that's really the only shit that floats in those waters. And the women are all just so skeptical, and I guess I can understand why, because then they get barraged with, contacts and inquiries, and they ignore me 100%. And, if I'm not half an inch too tall, then I'm half an inch too short, or I live half a mile too far away for convenience. Whatever the case, it's nothing. It's just something to distract me. But I've attempted to try anyway. It does create a possibility. That's like the most thing I can say, the most positive thing I can say about it. So my anxiety has been really bad the last 2 days. I'm feeling better today, and I don't know why. All things considered, there's no reason for me to be feeling any better today. But it really swallowed everything I could have done yesterday. And maybe I'll take some pills today. I don't know. I don't know why I always remain so hesitant to take them. I mean, I know why. It's because when I take them, I can't drink. Or if I take them and I do drink, then I'm like as good as dead the next day. Because you're not supposed to mix those things with booze. So I am going to get me a sandwich.
Your access to this long-distance provider's network is not authorized. Please call 1-800-645-0005.
This is Park Avenue and 52nd Street. And the number shown on the phone is 212-223-8628. I've just been listening in to some of the preemptive chatter about the Mueller report being released today, the redacted version. So far, I haven't heard anything much, but it's still early. I think a lot of this whole thing has been all this talk about the Mueller report. I feel like livelihoods have been made, and lots of money being made just writing about something that you just don't know what the hell you're talking about. And it seems to be the way things work, but it's gotten me thinking that when Barr held on to the report for a while, it was an intentional thing to get both sides of the political field worked up to a point where they say stupid shit that can be brought against them in some context. It sounds like I haven't followed it that closely because there's nothing there. Like I'm not one to dwell on something that I can't see. Well, yes, I am actually, but that's a different context, different meaning. But but what is interesting is the only talking point that I've really dug into mentally is the fact that collusion is not a legal concept. You can't be prosecuted for it. So instead, he went after conspiracy. And it sounds like Trump was like making all these illegal orders of his cabinet and advisors, like ordering somebody to start firing Robert Mueller and ordering this and ordering that. And they just ignored him. Well, I had a dream about Donald Trump after he got elected, and it was, in the dream it was the last few weeks of his second term. And by the end of his second term, he was like one of the most popular presidents, most beloved presidents ever. And it was a nice dream, actually, except I woke up feeling like, that's still sting. And I felt it last time when I went into the Trump Tower a couple of weeks ago. I just remember that sting that I felt when I woke up.
Deposit 25 cents for the next 3 minutes.
And I saw not just that he had won, but his own reaction seemed to suggest that he was stung himself. And I just cannot, I wish I could know what he said to his wife and kids in that room. But when I say that it's stung, to wake up and hear that he had been elected, and that it stung to see his own reaction. I don't really mean that politically. I just mean what stung for me was that he didn't even want the job. And I'm not saying he didn't win fair and square. I don't care about all that social media influencing the vote thing. I don't believe in that shit. You know, they throw all these crazy stats at you like you're supposed to sway your opinion, but I mean, they somebody posted some story about Hillary Clinton being a space alien, and 6 million people viewed it. Well, what is that supposed to mean? Did 6 million people change their vote because Hillary is a space alien? There's just a lot of grandiosities that the media throws around without it in such ways, such broad swaths that you can't really argue with them. I mean, if you were to dissect numbers like that, you'd be very, very busy, and there's just not enough people in the world to really take those numbers for what they are. So, like I said, I wasn't stung because I don't like the guy. I got wildly mixed feelings, about the guy over the years. He, after 9/11, I remember, just within a couple of days, he was the first one coming out and saying that those buildings should not have come down. And he was the first one to talk like that. And he was right. And at the time, I appreciated it. He was right. Those buildings should not have come down. And one of the biggest hoaxes of all was that those Twin Towers were some majestic masterpiece of architecture. I mean, I don't know that people really regarded it as that, but given their size, you'd think they'd be able to take a punch or two. Or you would have thought that back before you knew that they were all hollow inside. There's a metaphor for you. And he also made one of the most interesting comments from a wealthy person. He was like leveraging debt, or he's like, I don't know how many millions or billions in debt. And he came outside of the Trump Tower and he saw a homeless guy sitting on the sidewalk, and he said, I envy that guy. He's got nothing, but I'd rather have nothing than Trump. He said it a little more articulately than that, or at least that's how I remembered it a long time ago. I don't know. Anyway, Ronald Reagan made some surprisingly intellectual, I don't want to use that word improperly, but he had a deeper thoughtscape than I would give credit. I'm off of Park Avenue now on 52nd Street, about a block away from St. Bartholomew's Church. I played a concert there a long time ago, and I played pretty well, but I was never invited back because I didn't do the publicity thing. Hardly anybody showed up, and those events are about making money for everybody. I think I got paid $20. Most of the people who were there I got freebies for. But after the concert was over, there were these two insanely beautiful women sitting up front. And I went backstage, and then I came back out to do the little meet and greet thing. And these two women were just checking me out, like really seriously. And I didn't know what to say. I often don't know what to say if a woman is coming on to me. And I usually don't even recognize that she was doing that until much later, so it's too late. And it's a lot of just standard miscommunication that happens, but sometimes I gotta ask if my mother fucked me up more than I've been willing to allow, more than I've been willing to let in. The first drink that I saw in New York told me that if my mother was sitting next to me in that office, she would have said, "You are a bad mother, you are a bad parent." And I thought, well, first of all, you probably wouldn't really say that, but is that even necessary? And again, what the hell? Maybe my mother knew that she was a mess, and she had a lot of issues with men, and maybe she took them out on me. Something to think about, right? I do remember being reduced to tears, and this is like not in grade school or even high school. This was like after college graduation, where she blamed me for everything bad that had ever happened to her. She was like explicit in saying that. And she really wasn't like that. She wasn't really one to turn the screwdriver like that or turn the screw into you. And I remember even sensing that she felt a little self-conscious about this, that she knew she was hurting me. And that she just kept on doing it very deliberately. Yesterday I was saying that I binge on a certain dating website, and I'll hit it multiple times throughout the day for a couple of weeks, and then I'll ignore it for a few months. Although I probably go back to it more often than I think. But I meant to add that when I looked at this site yesterday, I had a major anxiety attack at the idea of actually meeting somebody through this thing. It's not so much that I'm afraid to do that, it's that it's probably never going to happen. And I changed my, I'm just not physically attracted, I guess, because there's so many women on there that it would be so obvious that we could hit it off if we were introduced in person, but you just can't get through the sort of constipated filter of skepticism and even anger that some women have being present in this place. But I changed my profile to reflect the change that I'm not. I had said I was looking for a relationship, because that just seems to be the ad hominem thing to do, right? But I said, fuck it, I'm just looking for somebody to play with. Somebody wants to come out and play, and when we have time to work it out, somebody to talk to, and somebody to have some fun. So I don't know if that's going to make me look any more attractive to women, but see, I contemplated writing to one woman who says she's 50 and has a kid. She's up in the Bronx. But I'm going to wait a while because I want to see how many other people have their profiles set up too. I just want to fuck around. So I'm going to stay close to home today. I walked about 10 or 11, maybe 12 miles yesterday. And it's supposed to rain later. So I'm just going to try to stay in and hopefully not get back to the point of thinking I need a pill like I did. I could have done a couple of days in a row. This is yet another example of social media making something look like a much bigger deal than it really is. Or if something is really trending, but over the last week, a couple of people posted photos of the smart city machines that had been smashed. The advertising panels had been smashed with them. And one dude suggested that somebody has a grudge against those machines or something. And I've seen those screens smashed up, and I don't really think that much of it. It's just what happens to street furniture. So I was a little surprised, but I guess I shouldn't be, when the company posted this kind of pathetic plea for people to stop doing that. And they, of course, used the vulnerable and the poor as pawns in their argument, saying that New York's most vulnerable turn to these kiosks. And I don't know how they can say that with a straight face, but there might be some truth to it, but it's hard to imagine anybody actually relies on those things. I don't know, maybe I should flesh out that thought a little bit more, but these are the very people they did not want using those things. That's why they cut off their internet privileges, had them revoked. And serving the poor is not why they got into this business. But the argument was obviously very calculated. They're saying that if we can't serve ads on these things, then we can't serve the poor. We can't help the vulnerable. And got me thinking about how those tablet screens work and how crippled they are. The Bertha app is very hard to use, and I don't know if I believe the statistics about they ignored my FOIL request for stats, but somebody was able to get his hands on some stats. I don't know where it got. It's just stupid. I mean, I don't know how stupid they think people are, but I also don't understand why they're tweeting this shit. You know, why don't they should put it on the ad screens or something, or they should, but this kind of plea can only incite more of this kind of behavior. This is my estimation, so I don't know. Keep an eye on it.
I saw my ex-girlfriend yesterday, and if she saw me, she did a pretty good job of not showing it, of not reacting. She was with this friend of hers who I don't really know at all, but who seems to think she knows everything there is to know about me. And I just think about that whole scene once in a while and ask, what was I even doing there? Why was I there? I didn't make a single lasting friend, and she got a lot of friends from me. It's just a coldness. It's a meanness in the way that happened and the way that worked. Because she's going to spend probably the rest of her life chatting up people, friends of mine she never even knew until we broke up. And of course, she's feeding all kinds of bullshit stories to them about what a evil piece of shit I am. And I've never done anything like that to her. I've never done anything to impugn her reputation or indicate anything except that this just wasn't working. I have told a few people the horror stories, but these are people that never knew her and never will. So it's a meanness. What else can I say?
So I may want to change my sentiments about this, but then again, maybe not. This is where the social media ratio comes into play. Like, how many mentions of something on social media does it take for it to be evident that it's actually a pretty big deal? I don't know. I'm not expressing that right, but it looks like somebody was just like on a rampage in the village Lower Manhattan area, I think. Not Lower Manhattan, but 14th Street, smashing up one kiosk after another. And it reminds me, I mean, I've seen plenty of screens like that, and I just don't even think twice about it. It's just the cost of this business. But, so if they're getting all whiny about it, it's the thing they posted last night, the tweet that said, please stop doing this for the sake of the homeless. That's just not how you do it. You don't respond publicly like that because you sound helpless and you sound naive. You either don't respond at all or you just respond in a way that you shrug it off. It's like, yeah, we know. I mean, I would have thought that with the Titan part of the consortium that they'd be well-heeled in this kind of thing. But, I mean, Payphone's got plenty of abuse too. They still do. But the damage is, well, a lot less expensive, I guess. I don't know what the individual screen costs, but that has got to be pretty damn expensive to replace a whole bunch of them. So anyway, some dude with a lot more followers than me posted a couple of shots of some machines that had smashed up back panels. And he, of course, got immediate attention. I posted something identical about a year ago, smashed up machine in Times Square, and they, of course, didn't acknowledge or, respond. But I didn't post, well, I guess I did post it to them, same way this guy did, but hey, what am I going to do? It sort of bites at me in a way, bites my spirit a little to be ignored like that. But at the same time, but I'm not being fueled by festering resentment. It's more a matter of if they're going to ignore me and delete my postings and that kind of thing, and then take it like that again.
The number you have dialed is unallocated.
I'm on 6th Avenue at 8th Street, and I'm going to have to try another call on this phone because I swear I did not deposit a quarter to make this call. I came down here to see if it's really as bad as they made it sound. Social media has a way of making things look like a much bigger deal than they really are, but over the weekend a few people actually posted photos of busted up kiosks, and there must have been other communication because whatever happened, it was enough for the company to issue a really pathetic plea to please don't smash up our advertising panels. The money we make from that provides valuable services to the vulnerable and the homeless. So there they go again, using the homeless as pawns in their indefensible game of corporate brinksmanship. Smart city propaganda. Not feeling especially great today. I had a weird night. I had to make a midnight call to Australia. I couldn't sleep, and I got up to do some shots, and I reached for one of the shot glasses, and it fell and broke. And that was one of the shot glasses that a friend from Australia sent me. So I got on the line to him and asked for a replacement, and he seems happy to do it, so see how that works out. So, in case those previous 2 calls didn't work out, I'm just checking in again to say I'm back on Earth after one of the latest panic attacks I've ever had. It's not a racial term. Everything just seems to get consumed by white. I can see where I'm going, but I don't remember anything that I've seen in the last several hours. Guess I won't be drinking tonight, but it's just interesting the decision-making processes and the excuse-making processes that race through my mind. It's a blizzard. My blood pressure must have been off the charts. It probably still is. It can't come down too quickly, can it? Or you die. So, I'm definitely slowing down now. That's a positive. So, another interesting little thing that happened in the swallows of that today's anxiety attack was I found a quarter on the side of a garbage can. And I thought, hey, what do you know? But then I also ended up thinking maybe I left it there without remembering. But it wouldn't make any sense. There was no reason to have taken a quarter out at that spot. That was at the corner of the intersection of the street where the most photographed woman in the world lives, allegedly. I got to her through Hulu's records and have to polish that off because it was actually a pretty useful little search engine for a while. I haven't kept up with it. And all the sites that it searched have changed. I'm coming back down to Earth and I'm going to go get ready for the call with the new job. See how that goes. Maybe I'm not actually going to get the job. I don't know. After I put the coin in to make this call, or as I dialed the number rather, a couple of women walking past, I heard one of them yell, holy shit, that's a payphone. First time I've seen one of those. And I tried to get them, I turned and smiled at them, but they weren't looking at me by now. So this is East 50-something Street, whatever street the lipstick building is on. I'm up at the lipstick building now. That's where money went to disappear. That's where Bernie Madoff's office was. Although I came to think later that the significance of that whole affair was greatly exaggerated, and that its lack of significance was not reported. Anyway, probably seems like bigger news to me than most people, but those few dozen screens I saw that were battered and butchered, it's on all the local news shows. It's probably gone worldwide. And you know what? I feel like I'm the one who broke the story, but I'm not a news entity, so I don't count. Think about what I said. I wasn't really in an eloquent, quotable mood when the call came. I didn't expect a call at all to be quoted in this story. I don't have a problem. But I said, these guys didn't get into business to help the poor. They got into this to sell ads and make a lot of money. And that's completely true. I stand by that. But they're not make themselves visible, high and holy. A few people in the crowd seem to think that these things don't deserve this kind of abuse, and I'm not saying they do, but as an expression of people's hostility toward these kind of developments, I don't know, you can't just shrug it off. So far, there's been no announcement of an arrest or even a suspect, which just goes to show you what all this surveillance is good for. But that maybe he had a hoodie on or something, or a hoodie, a face mask, or a ski mask. So, we'll find out more when we I was starting to think that it sounded like it was in the news everywhere just because of my particular interest in it, but I think it really is in the news everywhere. I was just in a burger place getting some chicken when over the radio that they were playing there, I heard somebody say, "This is why we can't have nice things." And that's what a number of people keep saying. These people obviously have never heard of Link NYC until now. But there's such a level of hypocrisy. Like they said that this prevents the people from using the wayfinding and the phone calls, and it's not even true. The tablets work fine. It's just the screens they're saying takes the money away that they need to pay for those free services, and I don't think they're paying squat, really. I mean, they have probably a flat rate contract with Ring Central for the phone calls, and the fiber is there. That I don't know what they pay for that, but it's not like smashing these screens means that we now have to take away your phone calling service, or just because we can't serve ads now, we must revoke your Aunt Bertha privileges. It just doesn't make any sense, but that doesn't matter. The smart city doesn't need facts, right? Anyway, I know, blah, blah, blah. I'm just taking a little break from my duties, but I hooked up again last night. I have a soreness on my back to show for it. From what I could tell in the mirror, it doesn't look that bad. It's just like I don't like waking up with states to explain, so to speak. But where I hooked up bad again, I don't know why I let myself do this, but I ordered a food delivery and I fell asleep before they got there. And this is just a pattern I'm falling into where I get so criminally exhausted that I just don't think straight after a couple of beers. I hadn't even had that many beers. But yesterday was epic. I walked all the way down to Penn Station and back up to Grand Central. Took a train back. And I was exhausted the whole day, and then that long walk, needless to say, wore me out even more. So I'm going to try to make amends with myself somehow. I've committed to as much as 25 hours a week for this new job. It's moving along, although I don't know. My instincts are that it's not going to be a roaring success, but that's not my problem. But anyway, let's just get some deep bass sound or whatever time it is before going back to the gallows. it's a hobby server. It's a hobby web server. Setting anybody up. Here. Additional pretense. I heard that from one of the women on one of the dating sites. It's kind of strange. She said she's headed to Vegas, so she can't chat now. She can't do that for anywhere, but maybe she's a Luddite. I don't know. God, that's beautiful. I just went by. She was right at me. But she did respond and said that my message to her was interesting. What it all means, but she's the one who I said earlier because she's complaining about how it's so easy to get a date but not to find a relationship. You know, it's not that easy for everybody to find a date. But that's the beautiful one. I mean, because, all right, I'm going home. I don't know why I'm thinking so much about this woman on the dating site all of a sudden, but why would she contact me with a note implying that she would talk to me later when she appeared to have no intention of doing so? She said she went to Vegas and if she was going to be out of touch with the world on account of it. So I shouldn't worry about it, right? I feel pitiful today. The weather is nasty. And I went out in it earlier thinking that it was going to rain for the rest of the day, but then it stopped raining after I got home. I hate being in the rain. I really do. But I wasn't complaining about it to myself too much. So I'm done with my work for this week on this project. And I burned more hours than I'm going to bill for. But that's just because my web server is a trainer. And I set up shop on a new one, and I'd probably just, if I could figure everything out, I could probably just abandon this dedicated server that I'm using now. So let's see if that works. I mean, it's like a fraction of the price. It's like $30 or something. But then I could pare down my domain names and websites anyway. And maybe just keep certain things that are taking a huge amount of space. I could just keep this running hopefully on my local web server. I don't know. It's a lot to think about and a lot to not want to think about.
Your call cannot be completed as dialed. Please check the number and dial again. 024T.
It's a beautiful Saturday, and I'm going to do some walking today. Clear my mind from just keeping myself busy with the new job this week. I mean, it's not even half time, but still, it's not like you can take your mind off of it just because the calls aren't coming in or whatever. Anyway, this woman called me last night. I put my one of my phone numbers up on my landing page again. I've already got 2 calls because of that. It always surprises me how many people are more inclined to pick up the phone and call than they are to send an email. But whatever the case, she said that she's been trying to hack those link machines for a long time, and that she just found the write-up of what I did last year, and she said it was fucking awesome. And I don't know who this is, but I called her back and left a message and said, I'm happy to show you how to do it. You just have to, but I laid down the fundamentals of how you might do it, how she might do it herself in a different way. Basically, you just have to have access to a whole shit ton of phone numbers, and because that's their only way of dealing with the problem. And you might, I don't remember if I actually said this, but I should have said that this isn't really, the way I did it isn't really what you call a hack. I don't think anybody would, but I don't care what you call it, but I also don't know where she's coming from as far as technical adeptness and all that kind of shit, but whatever the case, she sounded pretty excited about it. And like I said, I'm happy to show how it's done, her and whoever else she's around. But I think she'll find that what I also said, the way I did it was fundamentally convoluted and weird, and it might be too labor intensive. And I'd say this, implying that for feeding into the implication that she has some technical skills that would allow her to come up with a less obtuse solution. On the other hand, that obtuseness, that obscurity, that obfuscation is what made it work for me. And I was thinking about saying this again, like about a month ago when the weather was improving, or when I thought the weather was improving. And I thought about it again. I was like, yeah, that was a lot of work. That was much more complicated thing to pull off than I'm inspired to do now. Third Avenue and 46th Street, and it really smells like piss in this payphone enclosure. Although I've had a stronger stench of piss in other enclosures, but this is pretty nasty. I'm just out enjoying the beautiful day and trying not to take anything too seriously. These stupid machines are spitting out the most random bus arrival times. There's like, I'm in Midtown, but it's telling me that the Q9 bus is approaching some street like 5 miles away from here. I just like, what the fuck are you doing? And yesterday I saw an ad. It's supposed to be one of these location-specific ads that was advertising the adventures. And why they think this is such a genius thing, I don't know, but it's, the screen is supposed to say the adventures is now starting in X number of minutes at this movie theater near you. And I was standing on 33rd Street and 37th Avenue, and I saw it. Adventures ad came up, and it said that the movie was now starting at the AMC Lowe's Theater on 34th Street in Manhattan. And I guess they just think what 33rd Street is the same as 33rd Street. And don't even get me started on this fucking poetry. Oh my God. I'm at Grand Central, and I just witnessed, once again, one of the great inequalities in life that seems like it shouldn't be so hard to solve this problem. Although I'm not saying I have a solution, the obvious answer is, well, first let me state the problem. The problem is, I check in here just to hit the bathroom, and as so often happens, the men just saunter in and out while there was a line of must have been 50 or more women waiting to get into the women's room. And it's just, there's got to be a way to make that not be such a problem. An obvious solution would be to just make them bigger, make the facilities bigger, but I don't know if that just invites the Robert Moses problem of building more roads as a way to accommodate more, or as a way to relieve traffic congestion, when building more roads just created more and more traffic. So I imagine, like, a lot of men probably don't care about if a woman wants to go to a stall in the men's room and mind her own business. Maybe facilities like this could further secure the stalls so that there's no, if like there would be some embarrassment factor one way or the other, either from the woman or the man, as far as seeing her underpants or her panties, or vice versa, his underpants or his panties. But it just seems like, I saw this at Trump Tower a couple of years ago at Christmas time, and it was so stupid. There's got to be a way to deal with this that doesn't necessarily mean expanding the quantity of facilities, because that's probably not realistic in most structures anyway. Although here there's probably some open space they could dedicate to more facilities here, but I don't know, because and then you have to do some kind of quantitative survey where you determine how many women that don't even bother, like they don't bother standing in that line because it's so long and it's not moving. Yeah, these are the things I think about. I should have been an urban planner or something. I should have been something, right? I'm out here just enjoying the day, and it's my first day off since I started the new job. Yeah, right. Well, I'm happy to say, though, that nobody has pinged me with emails or text messages or anything. I mean, I dove into this job without asking a lot of questions, not knowing exactly what I was getting myself into. But, I mean, it's not hard to figure out what I need to do. It's just some context of the whole work environment. I'm not sure what the hell the whole company exists for. So we'll see where that goes. Otherwise, I'm just staring at those stupid machines and figuring out or trying to understand why they exist. And I don't care about free Wi-Fi. I never did. I might if I was a little more mobile in terms of working and everything, but my unlimited data plan has never let me down. I don't think, not that I can recall. Yeah, I didn't really need to make this call except to think about possible ways to improve traffic for women's bathrooms. I mean, it just seems like somebody should care. Somebody should have a solution, and I don't know why I should be that person, but it just seems like such an obvious and situation in need of a fix, but whatever. I'm not having a lot of luck out here today. First, I missed the Bengali singer because the crowd of onlookers or participants, I guess, made access impossible. And then I heard a similar style of music being performed at Herald Square, but the closest payphone was barricaded by a homeless dude who put all his earthly possessions inside both of the enclosures. And then I tried to call in a little earlier, and I lost another quarter to one of these fucking payphones. And last week I did something I've never done before. I called 311 to request, well, I don't know if I am going to get a refund or what's going to come of it, but I could have made this call 100 times by now. But I don't know what happens. I'll assume that if they have any efficiencies in place, then it will be manifest by a check. I'll probably get one of those, it looks like a paycheck type of check for 25 cents, and that'll be it. I happen to see something on social media, an anecdote from some years ago where Telstra refunded somebody $1 with a coin, by mailing them a coin taped to, I don't know, taped to some postcard or something, and it was considered a beautiful thing. I don't think the city or City Bridge is going to be so clever if they even respond to me. There are a few more bashed up smart city machines over here on 8th Avenue and 24th Street now. This is that cool spot where 24th Street curves off into a crescent slightly. And I'm heading back up toward Penn Station, and I'll probably walk all the way back. I'm feeling really good today. So, said for that. I have not eaten anything except a couple of grapes and a spoonful of yogurt today. But I feel fine. I don't think it's quite 1 o'clock yet. It's 1 p.m. I'm at 54th and Lexington, trying to decide if I should walk back. I've walked over 11 miles now. Probably closer to 12 because the inside Penn Station didn't get recorded and I went back and forth a lot in there. I got a couple of, I think I got a couple of recordings of a really good singer, Nadine Simmons. Well, she wasn't doing the stuff that first drew me to her when I started recording, but whatever. It's just interesting how often it happens that I need to use a phone. I'm simply standing right next to it. I don't have the character type to be like, could you not hang up this phone, please? It might work, though. It might interest somebody enough to, but I don't know. Anyway, I had a burger. It settled very well. I got to go find a place to take a dump. So there you go. I wasn't looking forward to working Sundays on this project, but this is how a part-time thing spirals out of control. You work more hours than you're allowed to bill. So it's interesting, though, how Sunday has maintained its status as the day of rest. You think, I don't know, and for a lot of things, like liquor stores never used to open on Sundays. It's a fairly recent development that they started doing that. It was one of those things no politician really wanted to go near. I remember when I was a kid, it was considered somewhat controversial that chain stores started opening on Sundays and such, but we had an interesting topic for study because, by my estimation, Sunday as the day of rest is a biblical thing. It has its basis in the Bible. But I don't know if other stories of the creation of the world follow suit on that particular. And Christianity is not, particularly revolutionary religion on most of its substance. It's when you talk about the Son of God coming and being among us, that's the revolution. So I'm not really poised at this moment to get on a religious discussion, but I walked a good 15 miles yesterday and discovered that a couple of the calls I made didn't work. I connected, but I didn't hear anything. And I discovered the same happened on Tuesday. And that'll happen. But I connected with the woman who said she wanted to hack those link machines, and I explained to her that what I was doing was not really a hack. And she seemed very receptive, but she was sort of a take-only type of thing. She's not going to tell me her name or anything. I mean, I don't care. She's fucking married and everything. I just thought she might be interested in some of the other shit that I did, but so probably I'm having to read from her again. And she's aligned a little too closely with her. With the activists, and I don't have any problem with them. I don't care about their demands. Something a little strange happened last night. Because a similar thing had happened a long time ago. I posted a video of some crazy stupid shit I did on one of those smart city machines. Videos from like a couple of years ago, I think. And I wrote a little haiku, and then I did what I do, which was delete it first thing in the morning. But before I deleted it, I found that one of the lead programmers, developers at the company started following me on YouTube from her personal account. And this happened about a year or so ago when, that's probably longer than that, but I posted a photo of us smashed up kiosks in Times Square. It's yellow tape all over it. And somebody posted that she and one other person at the company summer of soft thing. Somebody at the company contacted New York One, and I don't know what they told them, but because I know it happened because they had a meeting at something like 1:30 where everybody involved in this so-called investigation did the genius thing and called the phone number that I was using, and this handed me all of their phone numbers, which I could have really made their lives that much more, well, I don't want to say miserable, but I could have really done something with that. But then later in the day, after all those people made that call, somebody from New York One called into the number, and it was the reporter, and I don't know where she got the number, and I wonder if this person is a bit of a rebel, and if she actually thinks it's cool that I'm doing all this crazy shit, or maybe she's just lying in wait for me to make a mistake, or not that I have any mistakes to make. I could bait them all, right? I just heard that the city has banned all advertisements for alcohol on city property. That includes ads on those smart city kiosks, as well as payphones like the one I'm using now. And that can't be good news for NYC because I swear half their ads are for booze and the lottery. And I could do a more systematic analysis of that, but maybe I can't do it anymore since the ban was announced. It's like existing contracts will be allowed to play out until they're supposed to end, but I would think it would be in the best interest of the companies involved to say, okay, we'll stop running them immediately. I mean, that's a gesture of goodwill or recognition that it really is true. When you see alcohol, it makes you want to drink. But that's been true for me since forever. I see these red Bloody Mary ads for Kettle One, and it just tickles a certain part of my brain. It reminds me of the first time I saw a cow up close. It was in Tennessee, and the cow was behind a fence, and I got near enough to it that I could have petted it from the head if I wanted, but as I got closer, I remember the unexpected feeling that came over me. It was that my mouth watered, and I felt hungry, and I thought that the cow was smiling at me, and we were sharing some primal recognition from one animal to another that I'm going to be eating you someday. I also had that same pain type sensation the very first time I smelled beer. I don't remember how old I was. I was like maybe 10 or 12. I believe what they say, though, if you're an alcoholic, you will always be an alcoholic. It does not leave you. Whether you've gone years without drinking or not, it never leaves you.
The number you have dialed is not in service.
I got into an argument last night with the bartender, and I've been having apathetic or ambivalent thoughts about going to this bar anymore anyway. So, at one point in my life, it was a very important part of my life, and most of the friends I to ban advertising that. Maybe we'll have to go without a physical bartender, but I told him, look, when I see an image of alcohol, when I see a cocktail or a can of beer, I want to drink. It makes me want to drink, period. And so he suggested that I'm vulnerable to advertising. I'm like, it's not advertising. And you can even smell the beer when I was 10 years old, made me want to drink, and I think, oh, what did I have done? And then basically he just called me stupid. And they do a lot of things. That ain't one of them. The point I was trying to make, which never even made it through, was that it was bad news for the smart city if they were going to lose all that air revenue. But what really it turned into was a conflict over people's attitudes about being alcoholics. Some people brag about it. Some people, tell whoop stories about waking up in the emergency room with no memory of how they got there. I'm not one of those people. I'm not proud, or I'm not even happy with myself for being an alcoholic. And he didn't seem to believe me when I said that that's why my brain ignites when I see an ad with a beer can on it. He's just going after the assumption that you're stupid if that happens to you. And, well, and it also turned into a political thing, and I don't consider myself political, but, Jesus Christ. But, this car came really close to me. But I don't really have much respect for the politics of someone who doesn't vote, and he doesn't vote. And I could maybe imagine that he has an articulate, conscientious objector type rationale to defend the fact that he doesn't vote, but I don't think he does. I think he just thinks of himself as outside of, outside of the system, an outsider, an outcast, self-made outcast. But it was a little disruptive to be screamed at like that in front of the whole bar, and instead of getting up to leave, this woman sitting next to me turns and just stares at me as if I must have done something to deserve this. And I don't think I did. It's scary to see somebody with no real foundation for their point of view get worked up to the point of anger, and I could easily imagine physical violence. That's kind of what just reminded me of the incident in Philadelphia with my ex-girlfriend. She just unloaded on me and really humiliated me over something that just didn't matter. The fact that it didn't matter, I think, is what fueled her insecurity in me. And the anger was a symptom of that. So yesterday was going along just fine. And everything went to hell. And no need to go into the details. It's petty and boring, but the website I'm working on appeared to have been annihilated. There was nothing I could do. I mean, that really wasn't my doing. And I shouldn't be sitting on the call because I brought nothing to the discussion. In fact, I am distracted, but I think I got to stop being so eager to prove myself to these people. To myself, for that matter. And I should just, I'm not getting paid enough to be so eager, to be so zealous as I've been. But I am grateful for the situation. It's something more. And I am setting this up with the future in mind, the future of me not being there. Just handing it off to somebody else to keep it as simple as possible. Anyway, it's like a beautiful day. And I've been waiting for social media to pick up the fact that the smart city kiosks are pretty stupid when it comes to the bus arrival time. somebody finally picked it up yesterday. I'm surprised anybody in the world pays attention to those stupid things, but still. I felt like I had something more to say, but how often is that the case? Turned out I really was the hero. As bad as I felt after that last meeting, I was able to demonstrate, and I wasn't trying to prove myself. I was just demonstrating. I was able to demonstrate that I really did save the day. But I wouldn't call myself a hero because I just did what somebody in my position is supposed to do, which is maintain backups of the web content. But on that count, there was an element of luck because I wasn't consciously making a backup. I was making an export that I could port over to a staging server. But it's all the same. I mean, it was, I guess my being careful about things did pay off. But I guess I'm going to go ahead and lie about it a little and make it sound like, yeah, I did this because I was thinking about the security of the site, or the integrity of the site. If I hadn't done this, a lot of that content would have just been gone. I haven't had a job like this in a while, and it's a bit of an adjustment, especially since I don't know who I'm dealing with on the other end, except for the one guy. I've spent a good amount of time just cleaning up after people's mistakes, but I guess that's how techies stay employed, right? And other people. I mean, I shouldn't say it like that. I mean, that's how car mechanics stay in business. A lot of things that you fuck up or mistakes people make, or I don't know. But I did set the record straight. And I did it without, I was careful not to embarrass anybody. And I was also careful not to point the finger at myself as, hey, guys, I saved your ass here. I did. I wouldn't say it like that. Maybe I should, because otherwise people are just going to think that, well, there's a difference between me and other techies. Other techies will take any opportunity to lecture and preach and just be very grandiloquent about things, while I aim to be succinct and not bother people with the details of shitty code under the hood. I'm at the corner of Greenwich and Jane, and I crack myself up sometimes. I really do. I was at Penn Station to grab some recordings of Nadine Simmons, who's become my favorite subway performer of the moment. She really has a sweet voice, and it carries well through that sort of habit trail type space. I was hearing her all through those in-between corridors that no one else seems to inhabit besides me. But in addition to that, I called that U-Law number, which is the phone diagnostic thing, which you connect to for a nickel from subway payphones mostly. And the U-Law thing includes a conference call bridge, and I connected I connected 4 phones, but somebody already hung one of them up. So I need a partner in crime with this stuff to see what you could really do with that kind of a 100% anonymous conference call capability, all for a nickel. But they're still connected. I took a train from Penn Station to 14th Street, where there's another phone that is capable of connecting to this conference bridge, and reported that 2 of the 3 calls that I had connected earlier were still connected, and the one I called in that time was the 4th. So what to do with that? I don't know, because it seemed like I could hear anything that was happening on the other end. But those, of course, are not acoustically sensitive or dynamic instruments, those handsets. Anyway, good to get some quality meetings in. Someday I'll reach out to her maybe. Although I prefer to remain invisible. I'm calling from Washington Street at Battery Place at the Merchant Marine Veterans Place. Yeah, this could very well may be a spot that I've never stood on before. And it's almost certainly, well, I don't know. Hard to say, but to my right is the shoebox. That's what I call the World Trade Center building. And I didn't originate that expression. It was Banksy. I concur. It's just kind of nothing, except that if you stand in front of it, I swear there was a shout out to the old Twin Towers. I swear I saw that pattern of the white. I can't think of how to describe it now. Maybe it's almost like a cobweb, or where you have the alternating windows of the dark area with the white frames around them. And it would be amazing if something like that, a little inspiration like that led all the way through the acrimonious statistic match that was the public input. So I was just outside the Standard Hotel by the High Line, and they have a phone booth out front. I thought it was there as a short-term gimmick when they set it up a couple of years ago, but it's still there. And I later learned that they put these phone booths at all their hotels around the country, and it's rigged so that you pick it up and it automatically dials New York State government or Congress or something, and you press 1 to leave a message for your senator, 2 to leave a message for your congressman. And I didn't do that because I don't really have a particular grievance on my mind, and doing it in that format felt a little bit like something a high schooler would do. So I didn't do it. Even if I did have a grievance, I don't think I would follow through with it. But, so I'm moving on. I'm going to go check the stamp out again. Getting lost and wandering around can be fun until it gets really tedious and boring. So what just happened? I thought I was going west, and I thought I was going east, and I was going west, and I kept going the wrong way, and I went around a big, huge circle, almost did the same thing twice, but I'm on my way now. It's fine. I'm at Bowling Green, where there are 4 payphones out in front of the Museum of the American Indian, and this bank of 2 over across the street on, I guess it is Broadway. So, no prey though. Those booths outside the museum were exactly the kind you might have still had prey on, but she didn't get to these. So that was right. Went down to the ferry terminal and then probably got back up to the main station. I don't know. Maybe I'll hit the Oyster Bar Saloon. I haven't been there in a long time. Although I don't really like Midtown bars. I don't like the beer in Midtown bars. It's like any town beer. It's probably still too early to drink if I take a short time for this. It's probably about 3:15, maybe 3:30. Yeah, that's matters, right? 6th Avenue and 24th Street. I guess it's been 2 weeks now. I was thinking it'd only been 1 week, but I guess it's been 2 weeks since the dude went apeshit on the Smart City machines. Smashed them all up, smashed a bunch of them up with a brick. So, as far as I can tell, they cleaned up almost all of it, but the only remnant I've seen so far was the one at 6th Avenue and 23rd. And the remnant of that is that they put a big sheet of, I don't know what, some kind of paper or some kind of fabric, I don't know what, but a big sheet of white something to cover it up. I guess that one was maybe too badly damaged, I don't know. I don't remember which one got hit the worst. But fixing that shit. They're doing that. They are generally pretty on the ball about fixing similar situations that happen at Payphone, where somebody bashes the plexiglass panel or something like that. But as far as the advertising stuff goes, they're pretty quick on the fix. But with the phones themselves, they'll stay out of whack for months. I ended up here kind of entirely by accident. Actually, I wasn't even thinking about checking in on the status again, but I figured, hey, why not? So, good for that, Mike.
Your call cannot be completed as dialed. Please check the number and dial again. 048T.
On 29th Street, and as I should have expected, I spoke too soon. I did find one remaining relic of the carnage. Machine a couple blocks down from here still has the big X's on both sides, both the screens. So, still, it's not fast, but like I said, they're quick on the draw to fix the ad stuff, but the tablet devices and the telephone and all that shit, that stuff can be out of service for months. I guess that's just the way the world works. Also meant to add that I proposed writing a story for Gothamist about some of this stuff. Something I probably could have done a long time ago. I don't know what they pay, if anything, but I'd get better reach for some of the stuff that I want to get better reach for. The way it works now is if I post something is bugged out on all these machines, they read about it at intersection and they do something about it. But they don't say anything. They don't admit that they get their information from me. And it's just like it's just one example after another where it just seems obvious that these guys don't have any idea what they're doing or what these machines are doing. And it's just running on this happy autopilot that it's spitting out shit that makes absolutely no sense. So I am taking the bus bullshit. Again, today I haven't been able to get any good shots at it, but it doesn't matter anymore. I have enough to prove that this has been going on for long enough that somebody should have known and dealt with the situation, but they don't do that. I'm going to the eye doctor for the 6-month checkup on the floater that is clogging my vision and probably will clog my vision for the rest of my life. And they're going to dilate me, which is going to be extra annoying because it's bright and sunny today. Whatever. It sucks that people got far worse problems. So I haven't really complained about it much, but I was just talking to a friend about it, and I remembered that I am actually pretty upset about it. But I just don't let it bother me on a day-to-day basis. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to drive a car. Certainly not at night. I guess I could give that a try someday, but we'll see. It does rule out a lot of lines of work if I'm unable to drive. But so anyway, I pitched the story to Gothamist, and I wouldn't expect an immediate response or anything, but they have viewed it. Somebody there has viewed it a few times, and so far nothing. And if that's how it stays, then I'm just going to have to forget about Gothamist as a friend. But I don't know. I mean, I'm ready to do that anyway because I was never a fan of the site to begin with. But I don't know who else might possibly pay me to write about shit like this, about the smart city machines and how bad they are. I have looked at other smart city focused sites, but they're all very business-like. And they don't really care if these machines work either. They're just happy that they're there so they can write about it and pass along the propaganda about how lives are being changed on account of these stupid things. This remains to be seen. It remains to be fully played out. But it sounds like my instincts are all along have been accurate. Seems like have fans within the smart city. And I might be connecting with at least one person at the company behind it, those kiosks, who I've actually seen her on. She's crossed my radar before. She started following me once on Twitter after I posted a photo of a bus at a kiosk in Times Square. And she used to work for a friend of mine at another company, and I guess they crossed paths recently. And he mentioned that he knows me, and that she said that she wants me to go talk to their engineers or something. And I said, look, I'm happy to connect. I just told them that this is, a little fishing trip, as they say. I don't know. But I've made it clear I'm not giving up my secrets for how I make those screens. I have a lot more tricks than they probably had. And it's too beautiful. I just give it up. And who knows, maybe if we meet clandestinely, maybe it'll be this kind of thing where they give me secrets. So, I don't know. Could be entirely anticlimactic, or this could be the beginning of something very interesting. So I'm inching a little closer toward knowing what they really think of me behind the corporate protocol that prevents us from acknowledging each other's existence. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. It's an interesting scenario. And it came up pretty much at random. I mean, pretty much organically. I contacted a friend about something that's unrelated to any of that. And he said, oh, by the way, I met somebody who used to work for me, now works at the Smart City Kiosk Company. And he said, by his interpretation, she was pretty giddy to know about this connection, and she said that she wanted me to come talk to their developers. To which I said, well, I'm happy to talk, I'm happy to connect, but there's no way I'm telling you all my secrets. So, I guess I don't know if he passed that sentiment along, but he said that, and again, this is his interpretation, he said that he's a reliable guy, so I'm not questioning it. Still, it's possible that stuff got lost in translation, but he says that they talk about me like I'm a folk hero at that company, and part of me thinks that maybe we should just keep it that way, but at the same time, I'd really like to work for this thing, and they seem to be hemorrhaging cash, so it is not too likely. Or I don't know, what do I know? They seem to have a lot of money coming in from sleazy sources, too. So today, I just ran out of patience today. With this job that I have now, we do these daily conference calls over the Google Hangouts, and the call quality is so fucking irritating. It wince every time somebody will start talking, and then they'll just be gone for a minute. They don't know that they're gone for a minute. And so they chime back in and they're like, you got that? And then everybody's like, we couldn't hear anything you just said for a full minute. So today the irony of it was that we kicked out of that and went over to my favorite ever, the freeconferencecall.com service. And that's one of the primary resources I use for my summer of softing. And all I can do is laugh. I didn't say anything except if it comes up again, I'll explain why T-Mobile charges 1 cent a minute to connect to those things. But, I don't think anybody in this group really cares why, just so long as it's free. But just because it's free doesn't mean you're not. Well, I don't know if or when I'm going to hear from that person at the company. Maybe she changed her mind. Decided that it would be too weird to make direct contact with somebody, because it would be outside of the corporate protocol. Or maybe she's just waiting for the weekend. I don't know. I wrote a piece about how fucked up the multiple times people were on those machines. And I don't know if it was indirect response or if it happened before. But I think what might have happened is I alerted one of those New York News websites. I asked them if they wanted to publish it themselves and possibly pay me for it. They ignored me until they read the story. And what I think happened next was they contacted Intersection and asked them what the fuck. Is this for real? Or something. And Intersection, I think, actually removed those arrival screens altogether for a day. Because I stood by one for about a half hour and never saw one of those screens. I don't know about that over a half hour, but I stood there for as long as I should have to be able to expect to be able to see one of those things. And now it's back as of, I think, yesterday, and it works the way it's supposed to. Just to say that it's any more useful than it was before. And it got a couple of page views from Intersection that there's somebody who uses a Hurricane Electric VPN. I don't know who that is, but that's usually the first person to see any of this stuff, and I think they pass it on to people at Intersection or something. I don't know. But they did read it. And somehow it got through to them that this thing was blasting out bad shit for almost 2 weeks. And nobody seemed to know. Yeah, my life is really interesting. So I think I had a good day on the job today. At least it seems like it. I spent as little time as possible looking at some of these materials that I had to sort through, which included graphic video of some police officers who found a prisoner in their custody and hanged himself. And, the video doesn't show the hanging itself. It shows the discovery and the immediate aftermath that they're trying to resuscitate him. It's pretty gross, but that's the world we live in, right? I mean, at first I was depressed enough just watching everyday surveillance footage of prison life. These dudes just sit in one place all day, or they walk around in circles. There's nothing to do except play checkers. There's the TV, I think, but all this stuff, it's just rooms and compartments where different, all these containers, I guess, buildings and structures and their designated purposes and the activities that take place within those walls is so vastly different from one space to the next. I could be living next door to somebody whose life is a prison. The funny thing just happened. The phone I use frequently on 36th Avenue. And until now, I can't remember the last time I saw anybody else using that particular one. But I don't go by it that often because when I don't want to use it. But anyway, I just saw a dude talking on it. Just jabbing away. Yeah. Hate to say this, but he looked like what most people probably think of as a Payphone user. Poor and disheveled. Maybe not altogether there. But yeah, I can't remember last time I saw anybody using that one. I'm headed up to Long Island, or out to Long Island, in search of a phone booth that I've seen on social media for years and years, but only recently did anybody pinpoint its location. And it's a beauty, but I'm not going out there just to see the booth. Nobody in any of those social media posts has mentioned if the phone works. It's possible that it does, because I think the company that owns the phone is still in business, so it's Halloween. So, yeah. So I'm heading out to, I was considering walking out there. It's about 13 and a half miles. I was going to walk there and then get a train back, or maybe do vice versa, but that's a little too far. 26 miles round trip. get a round trip to on the Port Washington line. I haven't been on a LIRR in I don't even know how many years. I always have these melancholy memories of the job I had out there where I reverse commuted on almost always empty terrain 5 days a week to a job that really was just not something I should have ever been in the first place. And then the melancholy sort of extends to the fact that the woman I worked for died some years ago, and I had what later became a repugnant to me moment of Schadenfreude where in one moment a dude told that she was the best friend she ever had in New York, and I was ready to gloat, tell her, send my regards to her now that I'm your boss. But then he told me that she had died, and I felt gross. It's a rain day, and it's not like absolutely torrential, but it's raining. But I'm out here anyway. I like to have a sense of place, a single spot that I can stand at and report to, and maybe have something to say, maybe not. I spotted a payphone that almost made my mouth water in terms of how much I want to get to it. I want to access it. It's an old rotary dial, and it's got the number on it, and it's got scratched all over it. It says "Worship God." I think those words are. I think that's written twice on it. And I was getting ready for a little quick trip to Williamsburg, Virginia. That's where it's located. But I had mistakenly thought that Williamsburg was Alexandria, and that it was a couple hours away or something. I could do a day trip, make a day trip of it, but I obviously got the two cities mixed up. They're historic cities at the same vintage, so I don't feel too stupid for that, but for that little slip. But Williamsburg, Virginia is about 8.5 hour Amtrak ride, and I didn't bother looking into other ways of getting there at this point because it's not something I'm going to be able to do quickly. I'll have to stay the night and come up with something else to do there. It's an interesting looking phone. I thought this was when I saw it said Williamsburg, I was like hoping to God it was Williamsburg, Brooklyn, but no such luck. I would have heard about that phone by now if it was in New York. It's in a McDonald's of all places, but I looked up that location, and I don't go to McDonald's, so I don't know if it's common, but there's a very retro theme to the whole place. I guess maybe that's in keeping with the historic nature of Williamsburg, or maybe it's just something else, but they have like a big 57 Chevy, I think, or a 1950s era car in the middle of the place, and an old jukebox and all that kind of crap. So they also kept the phone booth with the rotary dial payphone. But I'm not so inspired by that as by getting a hold of the worship God spreadsheet, because I've come to the conclusion, I think, that it's not all the same person. I think but then that raises the intriguing possibility that it was a group of people who were in on this and who knew that they were like a little, I don't want to call it cult, but, well, if it's more than one person, that makes the story even more interesting, perhaps. I don't know.
Welcome to Verizon Wireless. The number you dialed has been changed, disconnected, or is no longer in service. If you feel you have reached this recording in error, please check the number and try your call again. Announcement to switch 4182-5.
So this job I'm doing has me listening to phone calls between a detainee and his mother, and between him and his sister. And it's taken me a while to realize that it's making me nauseous listening to this stuff, trying to dissect it, because he kills himself the day after, maybe the day of, and he sounds like nothing, He sounds like he has nothing and nowhere, but he's going along with his mother, leading him in prayer, even though he can't seem to understand what she's saying half the time.
And his sister is, like, helpful and everything, but she sounds a little impatient with them. And I don't know. And I saw some autopsy photos that I probably shouldn't have looked at, but I didn't know what they were until I opened them. And I just feel like it's not like I feel like bad about dissecting this or researching it. It's him. Like, it's that sound of beyond resignation, the sound of utter defeat, utter loss. So, and I felt that sometimes, but I know this stuff happens in the world. I know not everybody is happy. I just don't usually have to spend time studying it like this, but it really was making me want to throw up, though.
Something kind of funny just happened. Maybe not funny, but I was walking toward the subway, not intending to ride the subway, just in that direction. And this kind of shiesty looking dude up ahead of me is exhibiting all the kind of body language that makes me think he's thinking of doing something malevolent. He's like he's pretty jumpy, and he's like turning around, looking behind himself, looking every which way. And he's also wearing a hoodie, but I don't really consider hoodies to be a stereotype of anything, except it hides his face and it makes it seem like that's kind of the icing on the cake. It doesn't start with the hoodie, it starts with the body language. And so I don't know where he went exactly, or if he looked like he was going up to the subway, but then a minute later I see somebody who very much resembles that individual. I mean, I didn't get a close look at him, but I see another dude who resembles that individual approaching me from the left, and he's got that same jumpy, sort of nervous look about it that suggests maybe he's considering doing something stupid, like even if it's in the middle of the day, but that's not going to stop anybody. So I'm sort of not really nervous about it exactly, but I'm just thinking about it, and then I keep walking, and then somebody else comes up from behind me, and he's like, "Your bag is flap is wide open." He scared the shit out of me. I was, I guess, a little on edge, more than I thought I was, on account of the previous hoodied individual. So it was kind of funny, though. And he was right. My bag was wide open, and if the hoodie dude had any intentions, maybe that was why. Maybe he thought he could reach in and grab my cell phone or something, because it was just sitting there for the taking. So I said, "Look at that, thanks," and to the guy who told me my bag was wide open. It shouldn't be open anyway because it's raining. Yeah. All right. I'm just out to get some walking around time, but this rain really sucks. But I'm trying not to let it bother me. After I was ignored by the city for one job application, and the little fiasco of applying for the 311 dispatcher, well, that didn't warm my cockles much. But in spite of that, I went ahead and applied for another job at the city. This time it's franchise inspector. It was posted in March. I just saw it today, May 14th. So it was posted like 2 months ago. And I told him, sounds like what I've been doing on my own for years now. Like you inspect the payphones and those smart city kiosks. And I've been writing about that shit for years. And didn't want to make it sound like any kind of done deal, but it does seem like a welcome and natural evolution for me. And I would welcome the opportunity to learn even more about the innards of all this stuff. I don't think I have that, but whatever. But they'll probably just ignore that one too. I don't know. It would make sense though, wouldn't it? And I guess they give me a car. They didn't say to bring your own car, but you do that too. License, which I did. I'm going to let it float, so to speak, that I have a monster floater in my eye. It could be an impediment. highway. If they want to hire me, I'll follow through with getting zapped, and they deal with the consequences of that as needed. So, I don't know. I remember when I applied for things before, I was feeling a little more positive or enthusiastic, but this time around I just feel like it's a waste of time. But, yeah. If I was inclined to worry about this sort of thing, I'd be asking myself now, why did I completely space out on where I was walking? I was heading to the library at Woodside. The next thing I knew, I was at 59th Street. It was about, like, where the hell is this going? And it took me a little while to reorient myself. I haven't been over here in a while, but it's been that long. Because I should have forgotten such a fundamental. Applied for a job as the Payphone inspector. I think I've probably already said this in a previous message. And I expect them to just ignore me, not even give me a response. It's kind of how the city does it. How the city does things. And if that ends up being the case, I'm going to stop capitalizing the city. That's what people do. For whatever reason, they capitalize the C in city. If it's something holy, something sacred, we get that with God and such. Anyway. I don't have any reason to be over here. It's just that it's a beautiful day, and I've been doing a lot of walking until yesterday when I walked about 10 miles to the 181 and back. And I was feeling a little restless anyway, so it's a good day to be out for a little while at least. I'm not having a lot of luck out here today with the finding musicians, but I did find a couple of other interesting things. I found a new pen station today, so maybe I should just keep at it. But I just had a pretty disturbing, or I don't know, provocative, I guess I can't call it an encounter, but it could have easily become one. And I'm going to be very interested to play back the call that I made from Rockefeller Center earlier. So I'm unable to play back these things remotely like you could with a traditional voicemail system. But I said whatever I said, and then I went, and I put the phone back on top of I put the handset on top of the phone, and went over to check my Metro cards to see what he was underneath on them. And I came back toward the phone, and the dude was holding the handset, and I don't know, he looked like he was pressing buttons on the keypad, but I don't know if he actually was. But at first I didn't realize that there was something wrong here. I thought he was just using the phone, but then I saw he was holding the mouthpiece up, above his forehead level, and he was just at the earpiece to his ear, and he was listening, I guess. And I think what happened was, when I left, I put the handset on top of the phone, like I said, and he must have come on and picked it up. And I think he actually saw me do this, because when he hung up the phone later, eventually, he saw me, and we made eye contact, and he looked at me askance. He looked at me as if I had something to do with this whole situation, which of course I did. And I felt bad for standing there watching him, but it wasn't evident to me at first that he was disturbed. He didn't look violent. He looked pretty timid, actually, but I didn't want to get tied up in this, didn't want to enter into his world, or him into mine, for that matter. So I did a pretty good escape hatch, or a pretty good escape, I say so myself. I went into the Starbucks, just like I was standing in line, and then slipped out the back door, and into the passageways, and I was using reflective material. Using reflective surfaces and mirrors to see if he was behind me, but he wasn't. And I think I won't be hanging out there for a while, because he's probably going to remember my face for a long time. This just turned out to be one of those days where it takes me
have today to realize that I'm a lot more fucked up than